One imagine a world where money and absolute power let you get away with anything, but then a total nobody appears and casually wrecks everyone in his path. Even the worst bullies get crushed. This all starts at the prestigious Valhalla Academy, one of the top 3 hunter schools. Every year, thousands try to get in, but with an acceptance rate of 1 in 500, very few actually make the cut. And out of those survivors, only 150 students will ever graduate. The brutal difficulty is a massive reality check right on the first day of class. Recruits are already thrown into a chaotic free-for-all training session, bare-handed fighters face opponents wielding sharp swords. Watching over the scene is the chief instructor Lee Sang-kyol. Soon, a powerful man named Yu Min-jun arrives to check on a candidate from his family who demands everyone's absolute attention. This is Yu So Hyun from the legendary Yusun family, one of the 5 grand clans. In the country, she destroys anyone in her path with her unmatched talent for mana and swordsmanship. She is undeniably gifted, but that still is not enough to truly impress the instructor. Until someone mentions that her family has successfully made contact with a celestial guardian, that shocking revelation instantly captures the instructor's full attention. In this world, only 5 divine entities exist as the legendary constellation. Guardians, ordinary hunters, usually beg for blessings and protective contracts from these mighty celestial beings to survive. Each of these 5 guardians wields a completely unique power. The Yusun family commands the god of the sword, the Jang-san family. The god of spirits, the Jin Choi clan boasts the god of martial arts, the Oyen family. God of fists, the Giant family has the bow god, since Yu So Hyun. Connected with a celestial guardian, she possesses unbelievable potential. Passing the exam will be a total breeze for her. The entire world watches through the broadcast cameras. This match features the 17-year-old genius, Yu So Hyun, fighting against Kim Jua, who is also 17. Even the veteran instructors are completely shocked by how incredibly calm the boy is despite his dangerous opponent, exuding absolute confidence. The match begins. She instantly draws her blade, but the boy is nowhere to be seen. Deciding to attack, her beautiful swordsmanship and flawless mana control are beautifully. Her strike is incredibly precise, but believe it or not, the boy casually punches her square in the chest, ending the duel instantly. Kim Jua actually looks disappointed by the brief clash. Now, we uncover the shocking truth from 300 years ago. 3 centuries ago, a monumental battle shook the legendary Tower of Destruction. 2 warriors were locked in mortal combat. The terrifying King of Destruction, Brace, smirked, praising the brutal fight that left the legendary martial king, Kim Hyanino, completely exhausted. Brace, sporting weird blue glasses, shook his massive white hair and smirked. Kim Hyanino weakly agreed, letting out a soft, tired chuckle at his. But his laughter instantly fades as a mysterious glowing system panel appears right in front of his face, declaring that the legendary Tower of Destruction and its Brace were finally defeated, stopping the impending apocalypse. The giant structure begins to crack and shatter. Kim Hyanino realizes the colossal tower is collapsing all around him. Groaning in deep pain, he bitterly laments that it was supposed to be his chance to finally enjoy a peaceful, quiet life. Since childhood, he had slaved away in dangerous dungeons just to survive. Now, all his money, fame, and the future he dreamed of are crumbling away. He knew he could have brought his disciples along, but he quickly changed his mind because that monster was the strongest opponent he had ever faced, and everyone would have died. Holding his fatal wound, he bids farewell to the world as his body begins to decay. His physical form slowly disintegrates, and then a young boy suddenly snaps his eyes open. Kim Haeun had reincarnated into the weak body of a youth named Kim Ju-hyuk. This was 300 years after the tower collapsed, and the timing seemed perfect. Though his body was incredibly weak, all of his past knowledge remained completely intact. He figured that if he simply adapted to this new body, he could live peacefully. Suddenly, a translucent system window flickers to life right before him. It warns him that in 5 years, the Tower of Destruction will reappear. He is absolutely furious. That monster was supposed to be dead. He regrets not burning the body of Brace, but there is no time for regrets. In this current era, the conditions to conquer the tower should actually be much easier. This time, he is fully determined to survive and enjoy every bit of his life. Suddenly, another notification pops up on the panel, leaving him completely baffled. It directs him to find his lost weapons and memories in the underground Valhalla room. Right then, everything becomes clear. he knows exactly what to do. It is the fourth day in Valhalla, where the top 10 rankings will be decided. All summoned candidates must head to the stadium, and Kim Joo-hyuk gets up, fully excited. Every single participant takes their position on the field as the battle begins. Honestly, the crowd is absolutely losing their minds right now. High above, the senior instructor notes how massive the crowd is this time around. From his high vantage point, he watches as newcomer Kim Joo-hyuk steps up to fight. The countdown hits 30 seconds, and his opponent is already standing right before him. Standing across from him is the eldest son of the Osun family, 17-year-old Oh Si-hoo. He is not great at literature, strategic planning, or traditional martial arts. However, he possesses one incredible talent, an impressively massive and robust physical build. He can perform wild physical feats without any mana, growing stronger with basic training. Blessed with a top-tier body requiring zero effort, everyone calls him a natural genius. He glares down at his opponent with an incredibly aggressive and furious expression. The two stand face to face, ready to unleash absolute chaos. Talk about a power move, Kim Joo-hyuk casually flips him off with a savage insult. This leaves Oh Si-hoo absolutely enraged as he charges forward, screaming insults. Kim Joo-hyuk knows that in this weak body, he cannot win a raw power struggle. He lacks detailed information on his opponent, and his own physical strength is lacking. But superior physical power, that does not guarantee a victory. Oh Si-hoo wins up to throw a devastating punch straight at our main character. Kim Joo-hyuk easily dodges, relying on refined martial arts to enhance his fragile physique. He also has another vital trick up his sleeve. Swiftly, he sweeps the blonde bully's legs. The bully crashes hard onto the ground, completely disoriented and unable to comprehend what happened. Kim Joo-hyuk simply gives a sly wink, activating his analytical eye to observe his target. He targets a critical weak spot, landing a devastatingly precise strike right to his body. Oh Si-hoo's eyes roll back as blood splatters from his mouth from the impact. He falls unconscious on the spot, handing Kim Joo-hyuk an effortless victory. Without his dual abilities working in harmony, things might have ended differently. Would have been impossible, even though this body was weaker than before. He had no trouble hunting monsters and being the top hunter he once was. Walking toward the exit after crushing his foe, he left the crowd. Completely baffled, whispers spread about how easily Asuk had been knocked out and completely flattened by a basic move. Meanwhile, a man watched in silence. Analyzing the fight, this was Achul Shin, head of the Osun family and king of Fists, who grew furious at the clueless crowd, calling that strike simple. Even if his son Asuk only trained his physical body while ignoring martial arts, he still should have dodged, but this was something entirely different. Completely impossible to evade, Stigako had let his temper take control and recklessly charged at Kim Joo-hyuk. He even unleashed magic, which he rarely used, aiming for a quick kill, but Kim Joo-hyuk simply tilted his head to dodge. Predicting the exact path, Kim Joo-hyuk shifted his entire center of gravity forward, sending Asuk flying in absolute despair, shocked by the missed strike. The opponent was left completely open for an instant counter. This meant that Kim Joo-hyuk was faster than Si-hyuk at maximum speed, proving he had planned the whole fight, showing a truly monstrous level of talent. Achul Shin stood there silently, deeply analyzing the sheer genius of the kid. But he was not the only one who saw this rookie's true value. Other powerful eyes were watching. Achul Shin memorized the name Kim Joo-hyuk, determining to bring this boy into his family by any means necessary. The stadium lights flared to life as Choi Aaron's screaming fans filled the arena. Cheering wildly, Kim Joo-hyuk was amused by these grown men who had finished military service but still fawned over a 17-year-old girl. Calling her sister, it was time for the final ranking match, and Kim Joo-hyuk was set to face Choi Aaron of the Cho Jin family. At the start, she instantly drew her sword, preparing to strike first. Facing her, Kim Joo-hyuk just stood there with a completely serene expression. The arena went quiet as both fighters stood perfectly still, waiting. He immediately figured she was waiting for him to make the first move, showing she was far more strategic than his earlier brainless opponents. Chuckling to himself, he wondered how to play this. Then he calmly walked toward his guarded opponent, watching her with a sharp stare. With hands in his pockets, his gaze was intense. She stared back completely. Unafraid, tightening her grip, she poured her determination into her sword. Sparking brilliant flashes of blue lightning, The crowd gasped at the sight. At just 17, she had already mastered her family's elemental exchange. With absolute courage, she charged. Kim Joo-hyuk simply took a single step forward, offering an opening. She lunged instantly with everything she had, unleashing a devastating torrent of crackling blue lightning, but her blade struck nothing but empty air. She gasped, realizing her target was gone. A voice whispered that looking where she aimed made it too easy to dodge. He was standing right next to her, looking completely relaxed. Her mind went entirely blank. Before she could react, a heavy blow slammed into her body, sending her reeling as her eyes widened in shock. Pain flared, yet she felt relieved to have blocked that strike. Kim Joo-hyuk just stared in absolute silence. He watched in silence. Choi Ain grabbed her massive sword, flying backward to create some distance. Clutching her weapon, she soared back. Kim Joo-hyuk found himself pretty impressed by her quick reflexes. She had actually managed to deflect his strike with her weapon, saving her from taking a direct body blow. He only felt the hard clash of metal, not flesh. To her, his strike felt unbelievably heavy. Suddenly, his fist slammed her sword. Choi Ain stared in utter shock at her opponent. Standing right before her, he challenged her to dodge his next move before launching a massive strike. He unleashed a devastating blow, sending her flying backward with a look of pure, desperate panic. She crashed, left sprawled on the dirt. Still, something felt slightly off to him. It felt as though his posture had been just a little bit out of alignment. But in the grand scheme of things, it did not matter. Victory was already his. The Valhalla scoreboard flashed. Kim Joo-hyuk had claimed the #1 spot. He rolled his shoulder, casually walking away from the arena. Suddenly, a barrage of voices startled him as a massive crowd quickly gathered around. They desperately begged him to join their groups. Annoyed, he snapped and shouted at them. He screamed at everyone to shut up. Soon after, a wild online headline labeled him a psychopath. The press claimed Kim Joo-hyuk was completely unhinged, calling him a dangerous and crazy psychopath. Over 90 comments tore him apart, calling him a terrible person for his brutal actions. For a newcomer, people viewed the boy as incredibly arrogant and completely out of line. Users kept debating his raw potential versus his terrible attitude. Meanwhile, inside the massive, towering halls of Valhalla, the new freshmen received their welcome. Kim Joo-hyuk found the entire introductory speech about the academy to be incredibly tedious. Tuning out the boring history, he suddenly felt someone staring and noticed a boy behind him. The student quickly looked away, acting incredibly nervous and shy. Kim Joo-hyuk sighed internally. He clearly drew way too much attention yesterday, but a major issue still remained unresolved. Specifically, that bizarre system notification about weapons and memories from before. Walking along, he figured he just needed to get in and out quickly. It sounded like an easy task, but something nearby suddenly caught his attention. By now, the opening ceremony had wrapped up, and the simulation room was just ahead. Instructor Kim Leon stood there, deeply questioning how this class distribution was even chosen. The former chief instructor from the Trojan Guild couldn't help but feel suspicious. Right in front of him stood Yo Yan from the prestigious Yuzin family. Beside her was Aaron of the Trojan clan and O.C. Huck of the Asen group. The academy claimed class placements were random, yet 3 elite geniuses ended up together. Having 3 of the 5 top geniuses packed into a single classroom was highly unusual. But get this, there was actually another highly intriguing variable in this classroom. He glanced over at Kim Joo-hyuk, realizing this wild card was also present. This entire rookie class was bound to be pure, unadulterated chaos. Taking a deep breath to assert control, the instructor stepped up to introduce himself. He welcomed the students warmly, announcing he would be the instructor in charge. He casually tapped a button on his podium, sparking instant panic among the freshmen. Nobody expected what happened next as reality warped around them. Instantly, the entire class materialized in a massive, open field. Confused murmurs filled the air as everyone wondered how they got there. They were in a completely different place just moments ago, leaving everyone shocked. Monsters appeared, roaring with rage and wielding weapons. Panic and screams immediately erupted across the arena as Jayak noticed they looked like orcs. There were easily 100 of these green, ugly creatures. Suddenly, a massive green beast lunged forward and tried to slash Jayak with its razor claws. Another monster leaped at him, but the glowing barrier stopped them both. Instructor Kim Leon smugly watched the shield hold, satisfied with how perfectly things were going. He called Jayak over to the podium and asked him, "If the boy could actually handle all of these terrifying simulation beasts entirely by himself. Jayak silently stared at the horde clawing at the barrier. Leon was completely confident that the boy's fragile ego had been thoroughly crushed by now. That made sense since normal cadets had only ever encountered monsters in school textbooks. He told Jayak to stop pretending to think and just say no. The lesson needed to proceed, but Jayak simply smirked right in the instructor's arrogant face. This completely angered Leon, who couldn't stand being mocked. He assumed Jayak was just bluffing to save his own face. So he dared the incredibly arrogant kid to actually go out there and fight them alone. Jayak casually replied that nobody works on day one without a good reward. He wanted a clear prize before agreeing to do this combat mission. The instructor was intrigued by his greed and immediately asked what he wanted to bet. Jayak answered that if he successfully killed every monster, the instructor must grant him a wish as long as it was possible to do. The boy tapped his chin, casually saying that while it was a small deal, he'd accept. Leon tried to glare him down, but Jayak simply demanded a sword. Since fighting barehanded against 100 beasts was suicide, the instructor reached for his own blade. He unsheathed his blade and threw it over for Jayak to use. Jayak caught the weapon, examining the sharp blade with absolute joy and excitement. He slung it across his back, looking directly at the enormous, angry horde waiting for him. The instructor watched with a dark face, expecting total failure. The other trainees watched, thoroughly amused by this. Jayak gripped the heavy hilt firmly and leaped straight into the center of the chaotic fray. He slashed fiercely through the monsters, showing absolutely no hesitation. With a cold, focused expression, he began eliminating his targets. One sneaky beast tried to launch a cowardly attack from behind, but Jayak noticed immediately. He raised his blade and effortlessly blocked the strike without hesitation. It wasn't too bad, considering he had not swung a sword. In over 300 years, back when humanity was desperately fighting to survive the war. To survive using any weapon they could grab to slay monsters. But even after all this time, the blade felt incredibly familiar and comfortable in his hands. Suddenly, Jayak noticed something extremely strange about these attacking beasts. Another ugly monster tried to launch a cowardly strike, but Jayak easily dodged the attack. It was exactly as he suspected, fitting a predictable pattern. These were just very well-made digital NPC monsters, designed to follow an incredibly simple pattern. The students inside their capsules watched, completely stunned. Instructor Kim Leon stared in absolute shock, knowing he had only lent Jayak a garbage weapon. Instructor Lee thought it was completely impossible, since he only lent the boy a nearly useless sword. It was just a regular sword, no magic, no crazy speed, yet this kid was slicing through monsters with absolute effortless mastery. Honestly, it was as if his blade was literally swallowing the beast's whole. The girl watched, completely frozen. Meanwhile, he just stared back, reflecting on the chaos. She kept watching him through her protective capsule, totally still. She did not say a single word, showing a mix of pure shock and confusion. Soon after, Kim Joo-huk demanded to head straight to the constellation room since he finished off every single beast. With those weaklings cleared, he walked right past them toward the protective barrier. He then asked if the instructor would keep his promise, sparking instant fury. The man looked incredibly irritated. Meanwhile, the sun set behind the towering city buildings. Kim Leon dismissed his class, telling the exhausted students to go rest in their dorms instead of hanging around. Meanwhile, the boy slumped into a classroom chair, complaining that the lecture dragged on forever. He just wanted to get his things and get out. Honestly, teaching was the last thing he ever wanted to do, especially since he had never even attended school himself. Sure, the class was incredibly boring, but he still picked up a few really critical details, especially regarding certain mysterious topics tied to the history of constellations back in his past life. Nobody had ever mentioned them. Apparently, constellation was a term for wealthy humans transforming into gods, usually linked directly to active hunters. Now, Valhalla in Korea was known as the third largest hunter academy, globally housing multiple constellation relics. Still, Kim Joo-huk figured this monster hunting stuff was pretty useless. Instead, he needed to hit the dorms and train his martial arts since his current body was quite weak. But wait, suddenly a shadow catches his eye. The white-haired girl was approaching from behind. Meanwhile, in the professor's office, a man sipping coffee notes that his buddy went through hell. Kim Leon admits it was honestly way more embarrassing than actual physical pain. He wonders out loud if that kid is truly a high schooler to Lee Sang-chul, who is completely shocked. The boy wiped out 120 monsters in the simulation room without ever seeing a single one in person. It sounds crazy, but Leon is actually telling the absolute truth. As a senior instructor, he saw that. The boy looked pretty normal, but definitely carried a dark, hidden past. Kim Leon was stunned to learn he grew up in an orphanage with a highly dangerous area. There was no lie here, as Lee Sang-chul had personally investigated his background. Besides, a simple fraud would never try sneak into Valhalla by making a massive scene during the opening ceremony. Lee Sang-chul then asks if the kid requested access to the constellation room. Kim Leon nods. Hearing this, the senior instructor agrees to let him visit the first floor of the basement, following the director's specific orders. Kim Leon feels deeply grateful since he brought the kid here. He has to take full responsibility. To be fair, he knows little about the highly restricted fifth floor, but a quick trip to the first level should be perfectly fine. Even so, Kim Leon worries about what could go wrong in the coming year, leaving his friend deeply puzzled. Managing 3 students from Korea's 5 legendary families was already a total nightmare. And handling just one of them, the senior instructor knew that pain. Skipping the useless sympathy, he brought up a transfer student from the elite Ventric family. That class was shocked to hear Rockdal Ventric was transferring. Kim Leon had already heard rumors that this incredibly troublesome kid got kicked out of the United Kingdom. Expelled from the British Academy, yes, he caused way too much chaos. Suddenly, his own troublesome classroom did not seem so bad after all. Meanwhile, back in the hall, Kim Joo-hyuk stared at a girl with complete skepticism. She quietly stared right back, offering nothing but absolute, tense silence. He finally asked what she wanted, and she begged him for sword lessons. No way, he had absolutely zero interest in helping her. She was desperate to learn the incredible style he had displayed earlier. But when he coldly rejected her, she demanded to know why. His answer, simple, he just did not feel like teaching her. Since they had nothing more to say, he prepared to leave her standing there. She locked eyes with him and begged please, but his refusal remained final. He insulted her, calling her deaf. He ordered her to stop following. Kim Joo-hyuk had absolutely zero plans to train her and started walking away. He left her standing completely alone, looking utterly crushed and disappointed. The very next day, inside the massive, majestic halls of Valhalla Academy, Kim Joo-hyuk sat quietly in his classroom seat, lost in deep thought. Staring down at his hands, he realized this new body was remarkably durable. Unfortunately, with zero active magical power, controlling his inner mana was extremely difficult. No worries, he could easily fix this by finding that specific artifact. To prepare for that hunt, he needed to gather a bit of magic first. Because of course a flashy blonde show-off had to ruin his peace, Rockdal Ventric. With his loyal assistant Yuria de Felix behind him, he marched to Kim Joo-hyuk. Kim Joo-hyuk casually asked who the hell he even was. Rockdal Ventric scoffed at his ignorance and proudly stated his name. Determined not to waste any precious time, he cut straight to the point. He asked if Kim Joo-hyuk wanted real power, offering him a spot with them. Branch lineages struggle, they rarely secure any real power or wealth. But the Ventric family possessed Beak Mask, a legendary guardian constellation. This special connection set them completely apart from everyone else. Usually high S-rank entities hand-picked their own warriors for protection. But the Ventric family signed raw agreements with non-constellation members instead. They did this specifically to avoid any annoying contract limits. This unique strategy gave them massive European control. Gaining entry to this faction would grant unimaginable influence. With immense support behind him, Rockdal Ventric grew insanely arrogant. And not too long ago, his excessive pride caused serious trouble. Expelled from England, whatever, he was not about to cry over it. Standing with his loyal assistant, he vowed to take whatever he wanted. No matter the setbacks, he knew his family would always save him. The massive influence of the Ventric family would always find a way to restore him. Back on track, mostly because he knew his rival would enjoy his failure way too much. Shifting back to the present, he tries to strike up a conversation with Kim Joo-hyuk. He wants the boy, who turned heads at the entrance ceremony, firmly on his side. So he offers him a direct line to the powerful Ventric family constellation. Imagine offering a golden ticket and getting rejected to your face. Absolutely brutal. He stands there completely stunned, with no clue how to react, while his assistant watches. Rockdell cedes, but Kim Joo-hyuk is smart enough to see through the fake offer. Knowing the spoiled noble is just using him, Kim Joo-hyuk walks away, leaving him furious. Spitting mad, Rockdell calls him a brat. Suddenly, an imposing authority figure arrives. He commands everyone back to their seats and calls out the show-off, making Rockdell seethe. Even worse, the instructor uses his full name. This imposing figure is none other than the senior instructor, Lee Sang-cheol, who strictly enforces Valhalla's rules. This is not some soft academy. Rockdell glares, knowing exactly who this instructor is. He's a legendary combat specialist. Gritting his teeth in silent, burning rage, Rockdell retreats. He slinks back to his seat with his assistant, quietly swearing to get even. Kim Joo-hyuk will pay. Through all this, Kim just watches with cold, crimson eyes. He does not say a single word. Later, as classes finally wind down, he reflects. He did not learn anything useful about the Constellation Hall today, a total waste. Instead, he spent his morning dealing with some arrogant, noble fool. It is deeply annoying. He thinks about the scouts, the desperate students, and the instructors trying to recruit him. They all want a piece of him. Suddenly, a familiar figure approaches from behind. It's that incredibly persistent girl, once again begging him to teach her swordplay. He sighs in pure annoyance. She just does not know when to quit. Meanwhile, back inside the high-class dormitory of Valhalla, a spoiled noble is absolutely losing his mind. He smashes a chandelier, seething with a completely uncontrollable, burning rage. It is Rockdell Ventric, completely unhinged, because of the humiliation he suffered. That orphan Kim Joo-hyuk humiliated him. Furious, he barks an order at Yuria. Demand Dara gets here right now, he snaps, needing someone to handle a target. His anger refuses to cool. Rockdell turns his venomous gaze back onto his assistant. Calling out her name, he glares. She stands frozen, but he suddenly grabs her hair. He yanks it violently, demanding an immediate answer to his questions. Then he sneers. Do you still think you are the proud eldest daughter of the Felix family? He threatens to throw her out on the streets, making the terrified girl instantly beg for mercy. Unmoved, he violently throws her to the cold floor with all his might. Get up and summon Dara, he commands. There is a target we need to crush. He also orders her to fetch a specific second-year student from the Rise family. Trembling in pure terror, the helpless blonde assistant quickly nods in agreement. Over in the quiet dormitory, Kim Joo-hyuk sits alone, deeply lost in meditation. Glowing blue energy flows around him as he concentrates all his focus inward. Suddenly, he violently coughs, a thick plume of black smoke escaping his lips. Once again, he realizes this fragile, weak vessel cannot hold his immense power. Sitting in silence, his mind wanders back to the encounter earlier this afternoon. That annoying girl had shown up out of nowhere, following him yet again. Even after they reached the dormitory doors, she kept trailing right behind him. She kept repeating her annoying request over and over like a stubborn parrot. She was being so incredibly persistent, practically begging him to teach her, so he proposed. 10 million won per lesson, leaving her completely heartbroken. Believing she could never afford that price, he turned around to walk away. Suddenly, she demanded his phone, leaving him completely baffled by her strange actions. Why was she doing that? He watched in confusion as she typed on his screen. She registered her details for a bank transfer, leaving Kim Joo-hyuk absolutely stunned. Then a sudden buzz broke the silence. A brand new notification popped up. It was a direct transfer of 100 million won, a truly staggering fortune. He immediately claimed he would cancel the transaction right then and there. Now back in the present, he was still shocked. How on earth did a regular high schooler possess 100 million won? Well, he wouldn't even have to teach her his deepest secrets anyway. But that massive pile of cash was just far too tempting for him to ever walk away from. He could finally afford what he needed, even with his pitifully small pool of mana. Standing up, he was ready to take his first steps toward absolute victory. His goal: find the hidden vault. Even in this pitch-black darkness, he pushed forward. Navigating through the thick vegetation, he remembered the research he did beforehand. Most ancient vaults had already been completely destroyed by time. According to his calculations, only 4 remained, and maybe even just 3. But one thing was certain: they were hidden right here in the Valhalla Mountains. He refused to give up, channeling every bit of his faint blue magic. Sensing the ancient marble keys required only a tiny fraction of his power. A brilliant neon circle immediately flared up beneath his feet. And just like that, the search pays off. Kim Joo-hyuk actually found it. He walked toward the brilliant blue light and started digging with an iron shovel. Shoveling away, he quickly realized just how incredibly weak this new body of his was. Had he known, he would have buried his treasures somewhere much shallower. The terrifying Tower of Destruction changed everything 300 years ago. Back then, the entire world was teetering on the edge of total collapse. There was absolutely no safe place left to store his legendary treasures. So he built these massive vaults and locked everything away. Now, as the morning sun began to crest over the peaks of Valhalla, Kim Joo-hyuk finally uncovers exactly what he has been desperately looking for. His long-lost treasure vault lies right before him, its entrance finally revealed. Since a standard key was useless, he began channeling his magic instead. He carefully molded a thread of magic into a highly specialized key. It fit perfectly and the door creaked open. Pushing with every single ounce of strength in his weak body, he entered. He stepped inside, standing face to face with an absolute mountain of glittering gold. Who wouldn't grin from ear to ear standing in front of all that? He stared silently at the mountain of gold before him. With his financial troubles completely gone, he could finally plan his next move. He was ready to search in peace, but then something caught his eye. Right there in the center of the vault lay the crucial storage stones. He had filled them with magic to preserve his stash, and today was the day. He finally arrived, picking up a magic stone that immediately started to emit a brilliant blue glow. This was expected, as the storage stone overflowed with magic. He stopped drawing out the energy, deciding to handle the remaining storage stones first. He chose to transport the lighter jewels before moving the heavy gold bars. Meanwhile, the morning was looking incredibly bright and beautiful over Valhalla. Kim Joo-hyuk was slouched in his chair, sleeping like an absolute zombie. He felt like a lunatic, planning a future vault when his body already ached. All this soreness just from dating. Suddenly, the girl appeared right before him. She was begging him once again to teach her some swordsmanship techniques. It really seemed like she had absolutely no intention of letting this go. He tried to deduce exactly why she wanted him as her sword master. He openly questioned Erin Choi about why she was being so persistent. Surely her elite family could teach her, but she claimed nobody was better. He brought up her father, wondering if the master of the Trojan family was not a far superior swordsman than a regular student like himself. Before she could answer, the academy instructor suddenly called out for the boy. Summoned to the staff lounge, Kim Joo-hyuk was left incredibly confused. Yet this meeting was directly tied to the secrets he had previously asked about. Eager for real answers, he quickly stood up without any hesitation at all. He walked away, leaving Erin Choi standing there. She softly requested to speak. She went silent with a slightly sad look, but the boy suddenly spoke. He told her to meet him tomorrow at 6 in the morning at the training field. Talk about an unexpected offer. She was completely stunned by his words. He asked if she wanted the opportunity, snapping her out of her shock. Realizing his intent, she quickly promised she would definitely be there. Meanwhile, inside the staff lounge, the instructor sat right across from him. Having a class starting in just minutes, the teacher spoke without any delay. First, Kim Joo-hyuk's access to the main Constellation building was approved. He only needed to enter the basement, but was strictly forbidden from going deeper. Accepting the strict rules, the boy nodded and agreed to the condition. He quickly asked when he could enter, finding out he could go that very night. Kim Min-an was quite surprised, expecting the boy to complain about the restriction. He thought he would make a scene about not going below the first basement. But the student remained calm, and the two soon parted ways for class. Leaving the lounge, he headed toward his goal. Night had already fallen over the city of Valhalla, bringing him to the sought-after treasury. This sacred academy building held rare artifacts, and the boy watched carefully. Two guards clad in pitch black stood near the entrance, keeping watch. One of them was actively reporting their status into a handheld radio. Kim Joo-hyuk noticed the tight security was much stronger than the gate. The guard replied that it simply proved how crucial this building was. Looking closer, the boy noticed it was not just about the guards. The exterior walls were heavily protected with layer upon layer of magic. It left absolutely no vulnerabilities. Seeking more info, the boy asked his instructor for advice on how anyone could possibly reach the second basement floor. Asking if heading down to the basement was illegal, Kim Lemon quickly answers that it wouldn't make him a criminal, but it would definitely get him expelled. Worse, they go mad before leaving campus, leaving the young man pretty confused. Seeing his confusion, Kim Lemon explains that down on the second basement floor, raw energy of the constellations flows completely unchecked, and anyone who touches that energy will have their mind completely shattered, he quickly understands. Meanwhile, the instructor wonders why on earth the boy is asking about this. Right before going inside, almost as if he actually plans on sneaking down there. But he quickly shakes off the thought, there is simply no way. Their top recruit would risk expulsion when staying at the academy is so beneficial. Kim Lemon warns him he only has 30 minutes, and the young man nods, promising to return shortly. Then, that familiar quest screen pops up again, showing the exact same demands as before. He studies the glowing text closely. Kim Joo-hyuk couldn't care less about expulsion since he only came to Valhalla for this specific spot, and he needs to reach the third basement level first. He wonders why this place has so many endless stairs as he rushes down. Descending further, something suddenly appears up ahead. The area looks like an absolute massive dungeon prison. He knows the Constellation Hall should be on the first basement level. None of that matters now, though he still hesitates about going deeper. Suddenly, the system screen flashes, stating that the hidden conditions are met, and he is now being teleported directly to the hall, leaving him completely baffled about where on earth he is going. Without warning, his body begins to fade away alongside the glowing holographic panel. Arriving in a new area, a terrifyingly familiar face greets him. It is Brace, his bitter rival. He stares at Brace with absolute shock and horror. Brace sneers, noting that after 300 years, they finally meet again. Right in the middle of his speech, "Brace yourself," a massive punch slams into his face. Kim Joo-hyuk lands a satisfying direct blow on his enemy, thrilled to face this cursed wretched villain once more. Brace desperately tells him to calm down but gets another brutal fist directly to the jaw instead. Brace tries to defuse things to have a real talk but gets struck again because Kim Joo-hyuk only wants his brutal death. Every single attempt to halt the beating is completely useless. Now, Brace lies broken on the floor, defenseless, while Kim Joo-hyuk finally grows a bit tired of punching him. He coldly mutters that he usually prefers to avoid violence. But this is a special exception, because Brace completely destroyed his entire future. Adding to that, the villain ruined his fortune, his reputation, and all the year he had lovingly dedicated to his disciples. Brace weakly asks if Kim Joo-hyuk is at least curious about where they are. Kim Joo-hyuk admits he is interested since the empty void around them looks pretty strange. Brace explains that this is an illusionary world, a pocket space contained within an ancient relic, leaving Kim Joo-hyuk deeply intrigued. Everything he sees here, Brace reveals, is actually just a projection because his physical body died 300 years ago. He is saying that his consciousness has survived inside the relic. This shocking revelation hits him hard. Uncovering a massive truth, Brace sports a smug, knowing grin at that moment, and proudly declares he has become a godlike constellation, leaving Kim Joo-hyuk stunned for a second. His rage flares up, and he throws another heavy punch right at Brace's face. Meanwhile, outside the facility, instructor Kim Lemon was waiting for the kid. Suddenly, a figure steps out of the shadows. It is Kim Joo-hyuk, currently getting patted down by the guards. Lemon asks if the kid pulled anything suspicious, but Kim Joo-hyuk claims he was just looking around. He even notes that he stayed out of the danger zones to keep his head. The instructor barks at him to go home, and Kim Joo-hyuk quickly nods. Soon, he heads off, walking back to his dorms. His mind drifts back to the bizarre reunion with his worst ancient enemy. It mattered little if Brace was a constellation now. He just wanted to know what that floating blue screen was. Brace swore he knew nothing, which earned him a swift, brutal strike to the jaw. Kim Joo-hyuk is in no mood for games. Brace hastily explains that since his death, he has been trapped there for 300 years, completely stripped of power. Hearing this, Kim Joo-hyuk slowly cools off, unclenching his fist as he notices Brace received the exact same alert. The message ordered Brace to locate the reborn Kim Joo-hyuk in order to help restore his lost memories. This shady setup only raises more questions about why he was chosen to control the Tower of Destruction. Kim Joo-hyuk is left utterly bewildered about who is behind this and What their ultimate goal is, Brace admits his own memories are fragmented and won't all return at once. He then asks what Kim Joo-hyuk's own window says. The young man explains that his quest orders him to recover a hidden weapon and his past life, but the rest is completely blocked by weird, distorted symbols. Besides, he doesn't feel like he's forgotten anything since. He remembers everything. Brace points out that his mind might still be locked, but since the weapon was found, the rest will naturally follow. Still, the weapon part confuses him. Brace explains that this pocket dimension houses the legendary 4 village swords, which have now become sacred relics. He only ascended to a constellation because he wielded one in his past. Disgusted, Kim Joo-hyuk curses him, but snapping back to the present moment, he can't help but marvel at how his old sword became a divine relic and contains a constellation. It's completely baffling, making him want to destroy this whole mess and walk away, but there's a catch. He tightly grips the glowing blue magical blade in his hand. His thoughts drift back to Brace, the infamous king of destruction, and the new quest that demands his old weapon. To complete the next mission, suddenly some loud voices demand to see his student ID. It is a gang of arrogant academy bullies led by the smug eldest heir of the prestigious Sunrise family, named Lyric Sunrise. He proudly claims the seniors are away, demanding the freshman introduce himself. Kim Joo-hyuk wonders what kind of pathetic seniors spend their free time cornering freshmen. The punks get annoyed by his blank stare, calling him incredibly rude. One of them eagerly begs to teach the kid a lesson and gets the green light. He steps up to Kim Joo-hyuk, brandishing a weapon while spewing some cliché speech about hierarchy, only to take a devastating kick directly to his chest. Kim Joo-hyuk tells the remaining thugs to step up and stop. That was enough talking. The short-haired show-off groaned in absolute agony from the brutal kick he had taken. Kim Joo-hyuk leaped high, preparing a highly precise, lethal strike, delivering a devastating blow straight to his talkative enemy's face. The boy flew backward, utterly destroyed and battered, landing with immense force directly on his backside with a loud thud. Finally, he crashed into a wall, stopping abruptly. The blonde boy thought Kim Joo-hyuk was completely reckless and insane. His eyes widened in absolute fear as he stared. He noticed the boy who moments ago had no weapon was now wielding a deadly sword. Kim Joo-hyuk noted that this perfect grip felt incredible, a sensation he had not experienced in a very long time. He ordered the thugs to attack immediately, warning them they would be absolutely crushed. 3 hours earlier, Rockdale Ventric told the blonde boy he had a very simple task. He just had to deal with 1 weak, completely useless student, and in return, a handsome reward benefiting the Sunrise family would be given. Immediately, he provided the first-year student's identification. It did not matter if the boy used weapons, as any resulting mess would easily be cleaned up regardless. Finally, he asked if the boy would accept the job. The blonde boy said he understood everything and accepted. He left immediately, slamming the door hard behind him without any hesitation. He believed the rookie's first-place rank was entirely meaningless since he was just a first-year novice who could never compete with a seasoned student from the second-year class. The gap in power was inevitable due to the first-year contracts with the constellations. Valhalla students had to visit the constellation room in their second semester of their first year to form a contract and officially become second-year contractors. Once they became contractors, they could invoke and use the power of their constellation. In the blonde boy's mind, Kim Joo-hyuk did not have an active guardian, which meant crushing this weak freshman would be an absolutely effortless walk in the park. But there was a problem, a massive one. At that moment, the boy was already swinging his sword, striking down yet another show-off. One of them cursed him while holding a sharp, blood-red knife, but suddenly he heard something approaching. It was the rookie's sword, mercilessly striking him down. Without any hesitation, suddenly Kim Joo-hyuk heard something heading in his direction. It was another cowardly thug attempting to launch a surprise attack. The attacker lunged forward with his extremely sharp, pointed sword, but only struck the dirt floor. He stood there completely confused, having missed his powerful, fully loaded strike. Kim Joo-hyuk was already standing right beside him, mocking him relentlessly. He promptly delivered a precise, brutal sword strike straight to the thug's filthy face. The attacker flew far from the spot, leaving his friends completely stunned at the sight. And finally, after sailing helplessly through the air, he crashed headfirst directly onto the hard ground. Brutally, the blonde boy watched in absolute shock as the rookie was taking down second years one by one without even breaking a single sweat. Talk about overpowered. Before becoming contractors, second years should have far better combat skills, but these elites were proving to be completely useless. This made the blonde boy wonder about the strange, unprecedented swordsmanship technique it seemed the boy was only moving around with moderate strength, yet those he hit could barely stand. Kim Joo-hyuk faced the remaining opponents, promising to crush anyone who stepped forward. Wasting time, that is what the blonde boy thought they were doing. Debate over, he ordered his team to attack instead of fleeing like cowards. "Do not fear a useless rookie," he yelled, but Kim Joo-hyuk just smiled, remarking that this loudmouthed bully leader had serious nerve. The blonde boy instantly flew into a rage, charging forward with zero hesitation, but then something stopped him. A cold touch. It was Kim Joo-hyuk's sharp blade slicing right through his guard. He mocked the idiot for standing completely frozen, and then unleashed a devastatingly precise and heavy blow, pouring every ounce of strength into his strike. Had left, the blonde boy wondered how the rookie got so incredibly close. Unconscious, the bully collapsed. Kim Joo-hyuk immediately walked over to look down at him, slapped his face hard to wake him up, demanding to know who they were and why they wanted to fight him for absolutely no reason. The blonde boy whimpered that they were all senior veterans, but Kim Joo-hyuk knew this was no ordinary fight. Someone was pulling the strings. A pale boy with earrings quickly confessed they just wanted to humiliate the top rookie. Ridiculous, Kim Joo-hyuk mocked their pathetic excuse for loyalty. A simple high school bullies, but as he turned to leave, the arrogant leader called out to him. He warned the freshman that if this incident got out, the freshman would face instant expulsion, but Kim Joo-hyuk did not care. Everyone would soon know about their utterly pathetic, humiliating defeat. Think about it, upperclassmen jumping a freshman and losing. Talk about absolute embarrassment if word gets out, so the blonde boy should choose his next words wisely if he wants a career. With that, Kim Joo-hyuk departed, leaving the beaten losers on the ground. Humiliated, it was 8:28 p.m. Rockdale Ventrick waited anxiously for his call. Suddenly, Merrick Sunrise phoned him, sparking instant excitement. "Did you crush him?" he immediately demanded to know. But Merrick simply exposed who ordered the strike right then, explaining that he was officially pulling out of the deal. He dropped the responsibility entirely, leaving Rockdale completely stunned. Speechless, the blonde boy strongly advised him to stay far away from anything involving Kim Joo-hyuk. He wondered where things collapsed. He was so confident earlier. Then he suggested a new play. Report him to the administration. If there are any visible bruises, they will have enough evidence to get him expelled. If Merrick cooperated, the Ventrick family would reward him with massive sponsorship. No deal. Merrick knew that even with powerful backing, they could never recover their shattered pride and dignity. He abruptly hung up. This left Rockdale absolutely furious. Screaming curses, he smashed his phone. His quiet assistant stood by, watching the chaotic scene in total silence. Rockdale then summoned Yura. She answered immediately. She had already executed his previous orders, but since Dare was deployed far away, his arrival would take time. This made Rockdale even angrier. Meanwhile, far away in the beautiful country of Mexico, specifically at Valhalla Academy, several boys lay beaten. Sprawled on the ground, a massive brute stared at his high-tech phone. Amidst all the chaos, this fearsome man was Dara Ventrick, noticing a message from his brother. His brother wanted him to head to Korea to deal with a guy named Kim Joo-hyuk. Massive reward was already waiting, and the news got him incredibly hyped. Honestly, he thought he was totally broke after getting kicked out of his family. But now a massive turning point had finally arrived, the very next day. At 6 p.m. inside Valhalla's massive training hall, Kim Joo-hyuk stood deeply impressed by the sheer size of the giant room, totally hyped and ready to train. Determined to train tirelessly, a sudden voice suddenly questioned his presence. Turning around, he realized it was Barge from inside the sealed sword, shocking him. Kim Joo-hyuk was actually relieved, having assumed the sealed spirit had somehow escaped, and he would need to trash him to lock him back up, but thankfully, that was not the case, so they were cool. Kim Joo-hyuk planted his feet on the ground and started stretching while tossing questions at his dangerous companion. He asked about the sword, which had transformed into a powerful, high-tier artifact. It was now secured in Valhalla after they escaped the Constellation Room with it. But Kim Joo-hyuk was curious how Barge had swapped the real weapon with a perfect, identical replica. When asked how he pulled off such a trick, Barge replied that even without his original powers, forging items was still easy. Kim Joo-hyuk soon realized that Barge did not even understand his own strange skills. Suddenly, the beautiful gray-haired girl stepped into the grand training hall. While Kim Joo-hyuk continued his warm-up, her sudden arrival caught him off guard. She immediately asked about her sword lessons, but he was not teaching today. Instead of focusing on weapon techniques, they needed to build her base first. It was time to boost her stamina, leaving the cute girl utterly baffled. Even so, her determination was clear, ready to do whatever it took. Kim Joo-hyuk ordered her to start stretching right away, and she quickly agreed. Though it seemed basic, building her endurance was the key to her growth. A stronger body would let her absorb and control magic mana much easier. His training style was pretty unusual, focusing heavily on raw physical conditioning. Choi Erin had massive pools of mana, but her physical stamina was lacking. She was barely as fit as a normal novice. Soon, she finished her warm-up. Kim Joo-hyuk smiled and announced that the real torture was finally starting now. They kicked off the session with an endless set of rapid-fire push-ups, followed by heavy squats performed with sheer willpower. Next up came intense core work. By the end, Choi Erin was totally drained, collapsing onto the floor as she desperately gasped for breath. But the worst part, this grueling workout was just the absolute beginning of her crazy routine. Kim Joo-hyuk told her to stop slacking off and stand up immediately. They still had to run 20 long kilometers. Meanwhile, back in class, inside Valhalla's Class A, Kim Joo-hyuk quietly evaluated his brand new student. He knew her physical frame possessed some truly limitless growth potential. Right beside him sat Choi Erin, completely exhausted with dark, heavy eye bags. She looked absolutely dead. Just then, the classroom teacher demanded total silence from the noisy students, introducing the top instructor of the academy. Lilia, their instructor, announced a written test. Simple enough, she said. Even though she briefly covered it, she still expected deep preparation. So today, she would test their overall knowledge on handling each individual dimensional monster. The exam began shortly after, and everyone was immediately locked in. The room went silent. Even the top students looked quite panicked. Meanwhile, Kim Joo-hyuk simply glared at his paper, treating it like an enemy. Suddenly, the instructor checked the time on her sleek, high-tech watch. She called for pens down, signaling the end of the exam. With a stern voice, she collected all the completed papers. This test would not count toward their official individual rankings. However, it would evaluate their readiness for next week's practical class. She promised their virtual combat communication training would officially begin then. After wishing them a quick farewell, she promptly left the room. Kim Joo-hyuk sat in complete silence, a very thoughtful expression on his face. Brace immediately approached, curiously asking how he solved those difficult questions. He was quite surprised to learn Brace had been closely watching him. The strange entity inside him claimed boredom, asking what he thought of his host. In truth, the entity could only perceive thoughts directed toward himself. Kim Joo-hyuk shrugged, noting he had simply written down what he knew. The entity nodded silently. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the teacher's lounge. Valhalla's first-year instructor was pacing around her office in pure rage. Lilia could not believe Kim Joo-hyuk submitted such utterly garbage answers. Just then, instructor Kim Lingun walked past, carrying a warm white cup. He paused, hearing her intense muttering and obvious distress nearby. He walked over, asking if those were the tests from his class. She nodded, explaining how she used them to prep the next class. She insisted that even a simple test revealed highly valuable information. Naturally, the elite prodigies of Class A performed exceptionally well. Almost every student from those top families had done beautifully. Kim Lingun smiled in surprise, bid her goodbye, and walked away. He continued peacefully, sipping his warm beverage from the white cup. Suddenly, an ear-piercing shriek startled him, causing him to spill his drink. Lilia finally reached Kim Joo-hyuk's paper, and trust me, her reaction is priceless. Kim Lingun rushed back over, asking if the prodigy had messed up. He stared at the answers, completely shocked by the boy's blatant disrespect. Lilia declared that this absolute mockery simply could not be ignored. She vowed to show his answers to the entire class next week. A week later, they gathered in the virtual combat room. Lilia stepped forward, announcing the test results were ready. While almost everyone excelled, there was one very major exception. With a cold glare, she ordered Kim Joo-hyuk to step forward. He did so without hesitation, standing face to face with his angry instructor. Lilia shoved the paper into his hands, covered in bright red ink. She announced to the room that Kim Joo-hyuk had received a 0. He calmly disagreed, insisting he had put real effort into the test. There were questions waiting for him. First up was his written answer about the most effective way to handle a stone goblin. Kim Joo-hyuk wrote that the best solution was simply to strike its stomach. The second question asked what to do if 8 wild goblins charged straight at someone. Kim Joo-hyuk answered that he would just send them all to hell, starting with the closest one. His teacher could not believe he was serious with these answers, and he had not even tried to hide his complete lack of effort. Standard theory says a stone goblin cannot be killed with a standard sword since it is not strong enough. Lilia highly doubted Kim Joo-hyuk could pull it off, but he just confidently disagreed, saying he would end the match with a single strike. This only annoyed her, given his pure nonsense and massive ego, though she did respect his confidence, and since Kim Joo-hyuk was incredibly certain of himself, she decided to give him a special chance. Suddenly, a massive roar echoed through the area. A monster screamed, trying to terrify everyone present. It blocked the way of the prodigy and our main character. Lilia then told him that if he actually defeated the stone goblin exactly how he wrote, she would instantly upgrade his failing exam grade. Kim Joo-hyuk simply nodded in agreement, setting his paper down on the control panel for now. He picked out a standard sword from the weapon racks and walked straight toward the waiting stone goblin without a shred of hesitation. Monster glared back with a hideous, twisted look on its face. Lilia knew he had already defeated 120 goblins, proving his raw talent. But here is the catch: against this stone goblin, a random sword alone simply would not cut it. Suddenly, the beast shrieked in absolute agony. The young warrior was already landing precise strikes. Lilia stood frozen in pure shock at what she was seeing. The goblin stumbled back with a massive wound and a heavy fracture splitting its skull. That is when Kim Joo-hyuk began channeling his mana. He casually tossed his cheap sword aside, throwing it far out of the arena. He ended the clash effortlessly, looking completely bored, delivering one final, devastating blow to the creature's core. The battle was instantly finished. A young girl watched in total awe. Since he had slain a stone beast using physical strength and a regular sword, the muscular blonde student stared on in stunned silence, completely speechless. Even Choi Irene was visibly wide-eyed. Lilia let out a heavy sigh, demanding to know how he had pulled off such a feat. He calmly repeated that he just hit it in the stomach, leaving his instructor completely baffled. She knew that taking down a stone goblin with a basic weapon usually required the strength of an A-class hunter, which was the only logical explanation, yet this high school kid had done it with a simple, unenchanted blade. He asked if his exam grade was fixed now, but Lilia shook her head, pointing out that was only the very first question, and there were plenty more remaining. Kim Joo-hyuk sighed, realizing things were about to get annoying again. Right on cue, the training floor began to split apart, revealing a massive underground path. It was a deep, dark passage stretching endlessly. He immediately turned to his instructor to ask what was going on. Lilia told him to keep watch. A heavy step echoed nearby. Several beasts slowly emerged from the pitch-black abyss. She knew managing these highly aggressive stone monsters was incredibly risky, because any wrong move would trigger their deafening shriek, summoning an entire swarm from the depths. Normally, you would just blast them with magic and wipe them out. But here, only 3 goblins stood waiting in the shadows of the cave. One slip, just one mistake, and 5 more goblins would spawn instantly. Relying on a sword seemed hopeless, since Lilia heard his physical speed was slow. Yet he moved, unleashing a rapid sequence of targeted blows that landed straight on their faces. The precise strikes sent the remaining monsters into an absolute, bloodthirsty frenzy. One goblin tried staying on guard, but a heavy fist shattered its ugly jaw. The beast collapsed hard onto its knees as the instructor watched on, completely speechless. He casually bragged about his victory and for nailing the theory question too. Another day, inside the legendary training halls of Valhalla, Kim Joo-hyuk got to work. Sweat flying, he and Choi Irene pushed their treadmills to absolutely insane speeds. Displays registered absurd numbers before the exhausted, gray-haired girl finally wiped out. She collapsed onto the gym floor, desperately sucking in lungfuls of air. Kim Joo-hyuk just stood there staring down at her with a faintly amused look on his face. He asked if her family ever taught her to run, since she was dying over basic cardio. Out of breath, she muttered that they never forced her to push this hard. He shot back, how did Choi A-rin plan on surviving against high-tier, horrifying monsters then? She claimed she would simply use her spells by channeling celestial gods. Relying on the constellations to fight was the typical shortcut, Kim Joo-hyuk realized. They completely ignored raw physical stamina, choosing to rely on divine power instead. They just pumped up their mana reserves, skipping the actual physical grind entirely. Sure, relying on celestial sugar daddies worked fine under perfect, ideal conditions. No physical foundation, that choice comes with massive, fatal risks. Think about it, get trapped in a dungeon with a magic restricting spell, and you are dead meat. What happens when the mana runs out during a grueling battle of attrition? Or worse, if the gods suddenly refuse to lend power. Real strength has to come from within, not borrowed from above. Breaking his train of thought, he looked down at Choi A-rin and asked why she did this. She nodded instantly, pointing out he promised to teach her real swordsmanship. That was her only motivation, surviving the brutal workout just to learn from a master. He could only stare at her, realizing she had successfully called his bluff. While she looked on in pure confusion, he decided it was time to wrap up. They called it a day since class was starting soon at the academy. Class time, but he had other plans in mind instead. He told her he was staying back for one more set of extreme physical exercises. He briefly offered to let her join, but quickly changed his mind. Relieved, Choi A-rin waved goodbye and ran off, leaving him entirely to his own devices. As he picked up a massive barbell, Barch spoke up from the shadows. The ancient boss questioned if that was indeed the girl's real name. The demon was genuinely shocked. She survived that torture without complaining once. He explained he only agreed because she was so relentlessly persistent. He then answered another of Barch's probing questions regarding his identity. He never outright told her his secret, but he knew she was extremely sharp. She figured it out. She saw his godlike strength just by watching him. Because of her keen intuition, Kim Joo-hyuk decided she was actually worth teaching. Suddenly, a strange noise nearby catches Kim Joo-hyuk's immediate attention. A muscular guy, bench-pressing insane weights right there in the open. He is drenched in sweat, groaning with effort. Then he spots the boy. The two lock eyes, staring each other down in complete, tense silence. Kim Joo-hyuk breaks the ice, asking how long he has been training there. The lifter replies that he has been around since the very start of class. Quickly excusing himself, the man walks away, leaving Kim Joo-hyuk alone. Analyzing Si-hyuk Ho's incredible physical build, that is Kim Joo-hyuk's focus. Brace immediately asks why on earth he is so interested in that meathead. Si-hyuk Ho is bound to outsmart basic magic users, the boy explains. Then he asks Brace, what are those cursed constellations really up to? The constellation admits he doesn't fully know, earning a sarcastic smirk. Brace quickly defends himself, even though he is a great constellation himself. He was isolated for 300 years and knows nothing of others. But he points out that Kim Joo-hyuk can probably find out more. By simply completing the newly unlocked system mission, this really gets him thinking. Just then, a holographic system window pops up with a few warnings. It points directly toward the heart of the great Valhalla forest. Madagascar's home, the notification instantly makes Kim Joo-hyuk pause and reflect. He remembers it clearly. It was their final first semester survival exam location. Honestly, if it weren't for this absolutely cursed system, quest right now. Grabbing his stuff and leaving is no longer an option, now. He must play this stealthily. Brace quickly questions what he's planning. Kim Joo-hyuk defends his caution, bringing up their brutal previous battle. One wrong move back then, and his skull would have been completely crushed. Exactly like Brace's, either way until this system mission is completely resolved. He cannot leave. The mysteries of his reincarnation remain tightly locked. Meanwhile, get ready for a major shift in London. The Grand Ventrich Mansion stands with an incredibly eerie atmosphere. Strange vintage paintings cover every single wall of the place. An enormous dining table comes into view, where a powerful man and woman sit together. The woman, Adelia Ventrich, vice head of the household, starts demanding answers. This man reports that the labyrinth near reading has finally been cleared. Delia congratulates him, then asks if there is any other news. He mentions he is considering recruiting some highly talented fighters he met recently. Specifically, he wants to bring in a survivor from the robber clan. The leader questions this choice. She demands more details about them. He explains that the survivor is insanely strong and the others are class contractors. Adelia agrees to grant them the coveted Ventrich blessing, ordering him to test their skills first, which he quickly accepts. She asks if that wraps up their meeting. Apparently, it does not. He has one crucial report concerning Rockdal Ventrich and a recent incident. He reveals that Desir Ventrich has suddenly been summoned to South Korea. This piece of news leaves Adelia absolutely furious, her face contorting. Desir Ventrich is the family's ultimate black sheep, the worst delinquent around. He committed numerous heinous acts using the family name, including slaying 5 people at the British Academy at age 19 simply because of a petty argument. At 20, he was completely disowned by the Ventrich family. Adelia reflected on how he had been hiding for years and was now going to meet Rockdal. She then ordered tight surveillance to be placed under Rockdal's name, too, which she received a firm nod. The subordinate was also instructed to inform the arrogant young boy that if he was caught doing anything suspicious, he would be kicked out of the family immediately. The subordinate nodded once, again stating the report was done before quickly excusing himself, leaving Delia alone in the massive room. She remained silent, her expression contemplative, thinking about all those cursed fools using powers they did not earn through merit. That power was something beyond normal. On her chair, the words "all for one" and "everything is only for one person" were inscribed. In the end, all abilities were meant for her. Lost in thought, she sought confirmation from something, the eerie painting of the Guardian constellation hanging on the wall. Back in the classroom at Valhalla, the professor was discussing the origin of the word malefactor. In modern society, this noun was primarily used to describe those who used the power of constellations for evil. These malefactors operated both alone and in groups. Among these organizations, the most notorious was the group Ona God. Kim Joo-hyuk thought that while working out made him feel stronger, he also had a knack for using mana. Though not at a genius level, he was much better than before his reincarnation. Yet something still felt off, making him question the reason for his body's poor condition. Earlier, when he tried to circulate mana on the first day, he could barely get through it because his mana was far below average and his physical state was so poor that just digging a little left him feeling faint. But even with a weak body like that, it should not have deteriorated so painful degree. Something must have happened in the past, but why stress about it now? Suddenly a finger tapped on his desk. He looked up, completely calm and composed. It was the beautiful Yu So Hyun. She left a crumpled piece of paper on his desk. The boy was surprised by the note. On the paper, a big "hi" was written. Kim Joo-hyuk wondered what was going on now. A little while later, Kim Imon announced that the students would be allowed to leave campus over the weekend, but they needed to submit separate requests. He concluded his lesson with that simple announcement. Kim Joo-hyuk reflected on the idea of leaving the campus. He quickly filled out his request for a Saturday outing with a rather trivial reason. Grace was surprised by the boy's decision, which she confirmed was genuine, and asked where he planned to go. Before he could answer, he heard a voice calling him. It was a cute girl wearing a school tie. The two had a brief conversation about what had happened hours earlier. Kim Joo-hyuk had even responded politely to her note, but she had not replied. He then urged her to speak quickly as he needed to submit his form and was quite busy. The shy girl stumbled over her words, unable to form a single sentence without stuttering. Kim Joo-hyuk grew quite frustrated, calling her crazy and telling her to just nod. She became very angry at being insulted like that. She tries to protest, but he shuts her down, saying she always annoys people. Then he asks her straight up, what does she actually want from him? Her mind flashes back to a battle she watched from the sidelines. That day Kim Joo-hyuk faced that hideous, terrifying stone goblin. She was completely blown away because the guy did not use magic. Just pure swordplay, entirely different from what her textbooks had ever taught. She desperately wanted to ask how he pulled off that insane kill. But her stubborn pride kept her quiet until she finally takes a breath. Just as she builds up the courage to speak, their teacher suddenly bursts in. The gray-haired, bespectacled woman blurts out the exact same question. She is vibrating with excitement, dying to learn Kim Joo-hyuk's secrets. Honestly, he just wonders where this crazy lady even came from. He asks why she is bothering him, since she clearly hated his guts. Did she hold a grudge because he made her look bad earlier? The teacher waves it off instantly. She does not care about that. She thought there was only one way to hunt, but he proved her wrong. Now she absolutely needs to know his secret right this second. She offers him an assistant position, but he shoots her down immediately. He needs to hand in his departure form, not play helper. The eccentric lady begs and pleads, trying every trick in the book. But she fails, leaving poor Choi Ain standing all by herself. Choi Ain replays the teacher's words in her head, completely baffled. She takes a deep breath and lets it go, no need for more embarrassment. The very next day, a massive sight leaves Kim Joo-hyuk totally stunned. A colossal market stretches out before him, marking the start of a new chapter. Later, inside his giant Valhalla dorm room, Kim Joo-hyuk boots up his computer. Grace looks over and asks what he is hunting for on his phone. He replies that he is just scoping out tomorrow's location. Our guy needs a solid place to cash in the vault treasure. And this market seems like the perfect spot to get some serious cash. Search complete, he locates a hidden virtual marketplace operating online. Rumor says you just need to pay an entry fee to trade anything here. Even in this incredibly sketchy, dark web-style shopping zone. How does an illegal underground network like this even run so freely? Simple, its creator is a powerful guardian constellation known as the Secret Ruler. With a backer like that, even the elite use this tool openly. And although highly illegal, global governments do not dare touch it. Which is why finding a way in was actually a breeze for him. After scanning a few basic online tutorials, Kim Joo-hyuk makes his move. He spots a hidden link buried deep in the comment section. But before he can click it, his phone starts buzzing like crazy. Choi Ain is blowing up his chat with crying bunny emojis. She texts him that she cannot make it to training tomorrow. He replies that he is busy too, sending a few laughing characters back. Leaving Choi Ain staring at her screen, completely and utterly baffled. He scrambles to explain he was only wishing her a safe, pleasant trip. He then begs her to stop flooding him with so many digital emojis. Those virtual bunnies puzzle Kim Joo-hyuk, but he quickly refocuses on his real objective. He secures the location by clicking a suspicious link on his screen. Soon he slips out in dark clothes, wearing a long hoodie. The target coordinates lead him somewhere nearby, to what looks like an old cafe. The ancient entrance of the old local cafe looms right in front of him. Pushing past the rotting wooden door reveals an absolute mess inside. Kim Joo-hyuk cautiously steps inside. His instructions are simple: slip into the right corner. The hidden spot is incredibly close by, almost within his reach. He pushes open a heavy gray door and slowly steps into an entirely new area. A stunning sight instantly unfolds right before his eyes. This massive hidden zone was the legendary Grand Black Market. Outside, darkness settles as the brilliant moon glows brightly in the dark sky. The entire vibe feels incredibly bizarre too. Kim Joo-hyuk, this is his very first visit, yet everything feels strangely familiar. The purple sky, thick clouds, and glowing moon mirror the night he saw. 300 years ago, suddenly a man approaches, asking if it is his first time visiting. He has a highly energetic face, dressed in dark clothes and sporting long bangs. Kim Joo-hyuk wonders if this guy is the market employee from the online posts. Recognizing his familiar leather jacket, the employee confirms the deal and explains how the system works, though Kim Joo-hyuk already knows the basic ground rules. He swiftly hands over a thick, heavy envelope of paper bills, receiving a polite thank you. Kim Joo-hyuk then quietly reflects on the investment versus his massive upcoming profits. Still, he has one urgent question left to ask this dark-clad guide. He needs to locate a trustworthy spot to sell his mountain of precious gemstones. He has no desire to auction them off as expected. He just wants to offload them immediately for quick cash, the guide suggests. Heading straight for the bustling 3rd district, where buyers will grab absolutely anything. Kim Joo-hyuk pauses, questioning who is the absolute most reliable dealer around, and the guide points him toward a merchant named Morris, famous for giving top-dollar payouts. The dark-clad guide then shares clear directions, leaving our quiet visitor incredibly grateful. But the guide has one final piece of warning. He strongly advises Kim Joo-hyuk to wear a face mask. Down in that sector, because of the extremely sensitive nature of these trades, Nearly everyone keeps their faces completely covered at all times. This complimentary mask is actually a free gift for Kim Joo-hyuk, who thanks him with sincere gratitude. The guide wishes him well, urging him to enjoy his time exploring the 3rd district. Of the massive Grand Black Market, nearby, a figure wearing a white mask is examining a glowing, flawless diamond. Soon, Kim Joo-hyuk steps forward, seeking to confirm if this man is truly the legendary dealer named Morris. Known for his high payouts, Kim Joo-hyuk quickly explains that he brought rare items to offload. Morris replies that it entirely depends on what he brought. But standard precious metals and gemstones can be appraised instantly on the spot. Kim Joo-hyuk wastes no time unzipping his massive backpack. He immediately pulls out a dark pouch that looks incredibly heavy, calmly stating his intention to sell it all. Staring at the bag, Morris wondered what kind of items lay inside. He immediately examined the ring. What he saw next left him quite stunned. Peering closely, his eyes widened. This ring was no ordinary trinket. It was a rare artifact, salvaged straight from the era of destruction. An ancient, incredibly precious treasure, no matter how one looked at it. Morris wondered if the other items inside the bag were just as valuable. As several more objects glowed, the white-masked merchant realized they shared a single origin. They definitely did. Suddenly, a voice broke his deep concentration. Kim Joo-hyuk pulled him right back to reality, asking how much he would offer. This left the merchant completely frozen. How could such a young kid get these? How did he acquire so many priceless, incredibly rare, and ancient treasures? He couldn't help but ask Kim Joo-hyuk exactly where he got them. The boy simply warned him, some questions are better left unasked. Morris, known for his fair business, quickly apologized for the slip-up. He regretted the mistake, knowing it risked his hard-earned reputation as a negotiator. He confessed that he honestly had no idea how much to offer. These artifacts of destruction were simply too legendary for a standard shop. He lacked the massive capital required. Kim Joo-hyuk quietly considered his options. The boy thought about it, then asked where he could get a fair deal. Morris pointed him toward the massive auction house nearby. Kim Joo-hyuk immediately asked him how long the bidding process would take. Morris replied it would take 2 to 3 weeks due to high demand. The young man realized he would have to return here in person. He silently complained about having to deal with such frustrating procedures. Next, he asked for an estimate of what they might fetch. This made Morris pause in deep thought before grabbing his phone. Prepare yourselves, because the estimate he showed the boy was absolutely jaw-dropping. The kid stared at the screen, counting the endless string of zeros. He knew they were valuable, but this was on a whole different level. He then asked Morris how short he actually was of that total. The merchant admitted he could only cover 3/4 of it by selling everything. Kim Joo-hyuk blinked, asking if he was actually being serious. Without hesitating, the boy agreed to take that exact amount right now. Can you blame him? The masked merchant was left completely speechless. These ancient artifacts were highly prized for a much bigger reason than age. That key reason was the constellations, who had a strange affinity for them. They appeared after the destruction and reacted powerfully to relics from that era. With these, even a completely powerless person could secure a mighty contract. They were the ultimate golden ticket to earning a godlike cosmic patron. He held up the glowing ring, watching the dense magic pulse. On closer inspection, he gasped as the pure mana flowed seamlessly inside. The residual magical energy from the world's end was still perfectly preserved. It had all the signature marks. He could barely contain his excitement. He had somehow bought 8 legendary relics for a total absolute steal. Morris carefully clutched the small bag containing his newly acquired fortune. He cheered while putting them away, convinced it was his lucky day. Suddenly, he felt someone approaching. He froze in terror, standing there. It was a man in black wearing a scary mask. His scene was over. With that, his role was done. Elsewhere, a massive door appeared. Came into view, and Kim Joo-hyuk pushed it open with all his strength. He quickly pulled the uncomfortable mask off, having hated every single second of wearing it. He thought he might die in it. The cafe looked familiar. He quickly grabbed his phone to check his account transaction history. With that massive sale, his money troubles were finally a thing of the past. He celebrated his earnings from the 8 rings. Kim Joo-hyuk felt incredibly happy since he had plenty left in store, securing his future for a long time. Suddenly, a highly suspicious alert popped up on his phone. It was an unknown number, he answered without a second thought. The woman on the other end immediately invited him out for a meal. He asked how she got his number. She dodged it quickly. She explained she was a teacher from Valhalla and quickly gave him directions. She barked out the meeting spot. He never got a word in. To question her before hanging up, leaving him pretty annoyed at her rudeness. Kim Joo-hyuk decided to go anyway since he had nothing better to do. Besides, if some silly girl wanted to buy him a free meal, who was he to refuse? With that settled, the focus shifts back to the masked man in black. Morris demands to know why this mysterious figure has shown up here. In response, the masked man asks if their relationship is truly that bad. Morris fires back that a normal merchant cannot just chat with the market owner. It is completely inappropriate, even if they have crossed paths a few times. The legendary owner, known as Black Cat, admits he actually admires that attitude. Morris is highly suspicious and asks why Black Cat is visiting again. The owner brushes it off as nothing major, though he finds it interesting. It has been ages since Morris participated in any of their auctions. Morris complained their anonymous registration system was clearly broken. Black Cat simply smiles, explaining that the ultimate owner of this place is a powerful constellation with instant access to any information they want. Because of this, he demands to inspect the newly listed auction items. Morris reluctantly agreed, though he found this sudden curiosity incredibly strange. This was the first time the owner had ever shown such interest. He quickly tosses a heavy black bag containing rare items onto the table. These relics from the era of destruction leave Black Cat completely speechless. The cat mutters about their immense value, leaving Morris totally confused. What was this eccentric owner talking about? Morris was completely baffled. Suddenly, a system notification pops up. A constellation is watching in shock. The system messages begin to flood his screen over and over again. Black Cat quickly realizes his constellation desperately wants that specific ring. Meanwhile, over at the high-end Valhalla restaurant, a quiet dinner begins. A fork twists a perfect mouthful of delicious pasta, lifting it slowly. The beautiful teacher savors her food, getting ready to speak. She happily enjoys the meal, finding it pretty delicious, but soon she looks a little confused. She quickly asks why Kim Joo-hyuk is not eating, and he replies that he is. Simply wondering how an academy like Valhalla has a place like this, she explains that besides the school cafeteria and the staff restaurant, they also have a normal place. Like this, but Kim Joo-hyuk does not seem very interested. He asks why she called him out here. The teacher is speechless for a moment before she quickly invites him to become her assistant, but he instantly declines. The teacher asking him not to reject the offer so fast, listing all the benefits of being an intern. She begs him to just listen for a second. This request was pretty expected. Kim Joo-hyuk shows a tiny spark of curiosity, asking what those benefits actually are. The teacher promises he would receive a scholarship and other financial aid, but he still remains completely uninterested. She adds that he would get to write a research paper with his mentor, focusing on the 3 types of monster attacks. Doing so would surely get his name listed in the World Association of Monster Research, bringing him massive fame and fortune, but he still does not care. The teacher keeps trying to win him over, even offering him more days off from classes, but Kim Joo-hyuk remains totally unimpressed, forcing her to rethink her persuasion tactics. She tries to appeal to his massive ego next, but we all know that won't work. Fails miserably. Frustrated by his attitude, she tries to force the issue, demanding that he become her assistant anyway. Kim Joo-hyuk firmly says no once again, thinking her deals are just not tempting or good enough to accept. His real goal right now is simply reaching the center of the Great Forest, and even with her as his mentor, passing the performance evaluation would still be tough. Our protagonist then delivers an absolute conversational checkmate, bluntly stating that he has zero interest in being an assistant or writing tedious research papers. This leaves her deeply upset. She quickly proposes an information exchange. Instead, she suggests offering some highly valuable, interesting news to Kim Joo-hyuk. Exchange for the secrets behind his incredible monster attacks. He is interested in this trade, quickly learning that the gossip is about Choi Aaron. Kim Joo-hyuk immediately says he is no longer interested, thinking he was only helping the girl, but then hears she might be disowned by her family. He is left a bit speechless upon hearing this and quickly tries to leave, leaving his instructor absolutely desperate. Kim Joo-hyuk explains that he has finished eating and the perks just are not tempting enough, so he is leaving. The teacher becomes incredibly angry because she expected some information in return. He tries to explain that he does not care since he already heard everything anyway. Kim Joo-hyuk then asks to bring up something he is pretty curious about, why the teacher acts so incredibly strict in class despite being pretty childish normally. She explains that as she teaches about dangerous, mysterious monsters, serious problems would arise if they were treated as a joke. These attacks directly impact student survival rates, and since they are pretty foolish, strictness was required. Kim Joo-hyuk thinks it is all just a simple ideology, but it goes deeper. It is the sacred duty of a true educator. He mockingly scoffs at this. In a highly arrogant manner, as he turns to leave, she calls out to him, once more pressing for answers but failing miserably, ending their tense meeting. The mood shifts to Jang, right inside the main temple of the Choijin family. An imposing man sits across from two young prodigies at a wide wooden table. Guild leader Cho Janseok summoned them to test their resolve before the big trial. The family's pride and ultimate legacy rest entirely on their shoulders. Representing the elite True Lineage faction is the direct heir and combat squad leader. Cho Jin-hyuk, the eldest son, sitting right beside him, is the family's second candidate. Choi Arin, the grand leader, takes a deep breath and begins his explanation. Pass this classification exam, and they win the ultimate reward. A chance to bond with Chinwoo, the sacred relic of their ancestors. It is the true mark of a rightful successor, but failure comes with a price. Lose this test and they will be stripped of their names and exiled. No second chances. Cho Janseok looks them dead in the eye, asking if they are ready. The boy nods instantly, zero hesitation. Choi Arin gives her firm nod as well. Her resolve fully locked, the old master holds his silent gaze on both of them. After a heavy silence, Cho Janseok decides it is time to reveal the details. The crucial battle is set to take place in exactly 3 weeks. Until then, they are dismissed, both bow and prepare to make their exit. They head toward the heavy doors together. Suddenly, Cho Jin-hyuk speaks up with a smirk. He asks if she's finally learned to read the stars. She glances back, thoroughly confused. The boy presses on, asking if she even noticed their father's expression. Specifically, when she dared to declare she would take this dangerous test. Arin stays quiet, processing the sting. Her brother scoffs with a cold grin. It is obvious she desperately wants the crown and to prove she belongs here. The words cut deep, her fists clenching tight as raw anger flares up. But he does not stop, mocking her glaring eyes and her pathetic odds. He laughs at her lack of talent, letting the cruel words fly freely. She hasn't even received a single blessing from a patron constellation. He already holds a massive contract. She's simply out of her league. Hearing such venom from her own blood leaves her feeling completely isolated. He tells her to quit now and go back to playing pampered princess. Warns her that leeching off the family is about to get very expensive. He promises to crush her in 3 weeks, then struts out, leaving her alone. In the quiet hall, a sudden memory of a woman from her past flashes. The woman told Arin to grab the crown if she wanted true freedom. Only power can shatter her chains. Her eyes snap open, sharp as glass. All the vulnerability vanishes, replaced by a cold, unwavering determination to win. Meanwhile, over at Valhalla Academy, Classroom 1A is completely quiet. Every student is paying close attention, except for a distracted Kim Joo-hyuk. The reincarnated warrior is amused to see Brace actually looking stressed. Specifically, worrying himself sick about the date of the upcoming midterms. Honestly, the main character never pays attention to these boring lectures anyway. He couldn't care less about what the gray-haired instructor is explaining. But the teacher announces that everyone must take these exams seriously. Valhalla Academy operates on a brutal, zero-tolerance policy for failure. Score at the bottom of the rank and you get instantly expelled. And behave themselves, the teacher also urges everyone to study hard for both the written and practical exams to avoid failing, but Kim Joo-hyuk worries more about the written test since his practical sword skills are already top tier. Still, he needs to remain at this academy until he can finally reach the heart of the great forest, even if the path is completely unknown. To solve this, he quickly rings up Bart, who picks up right away. He asks if Bart has been attending most of their regular classes. Getting a quick yes, so Kim Joo-hyuk decides that Bart will take the exam in his place, leaving the poor guy completely baffled. All he needs is a quick peek at the answers, simple as that. Bart complains that this feels incredibly unfair, like cheating on a massive scale. But Kim Joo-hyuk shrugs it off. That is just how things work here. Meanwhile, the professor finally wraps up the lesson for the afternoon, wishing the students a great day as they pack up their things. Class dismissed, Kim Joo-hyuk grabs his bag to head out instantly. But a sudden voice stops him cold. He turns back, slightly annoyed. Asking what this little girl wants now, she asks if they have training scheduled today. He nods, asking why she is suddenly so eager. Cho-an explains she just does not want to halt her progress. This surprises him. He asks if she actually wants to learn proper swordsmanship, since it is about time they start, given her lack of basics. She barely knows how to hold a basic sword. Still, he agrees. It is not traditional fencing, but he will show her some weapon basics. Besides, she is way overdue to start practicing with her actual gear anyway. He tells her to meet him over at the Academy training hall. She agrees instantly, wrapping up this part of Chapter 17. In the training hall, Kim Joo-hyuk asks Cho-an about her sword. She says it has been a day and a half since she held it, as she was fully focused on her physical strength training lately. Apparently, she used to train daily. Show me your sword, he demands. She reaches down, her hand grips the hilt, pulling it clean out. Pure focus, Kim Joo-hyuk starts teaching her a much better stance, adjusting her posture, though she gets pretty confused by the fine details. She struggles with her ring and pinky fingers, but once she gets. Look at that, the moment her grip aligns, absolute magic happens. She gasps in confusion. The mana from her sword starts swirling wildly. Cho-an did not even try to channel her magic yet. But the weapon feels incredibly solid, more secure than it ever has. Kim Joo-hyuk suddenly tells her to strike him with everything she has. She nods. He draws his own blade with a sharp ring. Facing his tiny student, he points the steel directly at her. Here I come, she yells, instantly charging forward like a bullet. As she rushes her mentor, she notices something quite strange. Her own footwork feels way faster, but Kim Joo-hyuk blocks easily, praising her speed but pointing out that she still has a way to go. But there was a catch. He quickly warns her not to waste unnecessary magic on her feet, and she nods in understanding. Gearing up once again, she readies her sword to restart the attack, planting her feet firmly on the ground with absolute focus. In a flash, she darts right at her instructor, unleashing a swift and well-planned strike. Right on cue, Kim Joo-hyuk calls out that her charge was solid, but there is a major catch. When she stops, she needs to rotate her body more, and Choi-arin nods along. She gets the advice to improve her moves, so Kim Joo-hyuk asks her to strike him without mercy. She agrees without a single moment of hesitation. Instantly, she begins her offensive, trying to land multiple heavy blows on Kim Joo-hyuk's chest. Her strikes are so fast her blade leaves glowing trails of light in the air. Meanwhile, he easily dodges every single strike, leaving her blade hitting nothing but empty air and the dirt. They briefly stare each other down. In her mind, Choi-arin feels like everything is going exactly to plan, bravely facing him down to strike without mercy. She refuses to back down, already feeling much stronger thanks to Kim Joo-hyuk's insane training. On the other side, he faces her with a perfectly calm demeanor. Their clash gets so incredibly intense that their weapons collide in midair, bringing this intense lesson to a close. Soon, the sun is setting over the elite academy of Valhalla. We then cut back to the private training room, where Choi-arin and Kim Joo-hyuk are still working hard. By now, the young girl is completely exhausted, breathing heavily. Her instructor announces that an hour is up, calling it a day for their training. She quickly nods in agreement, and the girl in pink immediately plops down on the floor, catching her breath after that intense workout. She watches her trainer sheath his sword, amazed at how incredibly sharp his blade control is now. It is on a completely different level compared to the entrance ceremony, yet there is still one major problem. She cannot land a single hit on Kim Joo-hyuk, despite wanting to learn his legendary sword technique. Gathering her thoughts, she quickly calls out to him, asking him to spar with her again at the very next opportunity. Hearing this unexpected request, he is left feeling just a little bit surprised. Honestly, sparring with Choi-arin is quite useful and actually pretty fun, since she is incredibly talented and hardworking. Plus, he has already sensed her natural talent with the blade back during the entrance ceremony, even. Though she is completely out of breath right now, either way her experience with the style can help him regain his own combat senses. If they were back 300 years ago, she would easily be his disciple. Choi Arin asks once more if they can spar. Kim Joo-hyuk thinks about it, deciding to tease her by saying he does not want to. But she just accepts it, leaving him slightly disappointed that she gave up so easily. She explains that it is because he is absolutely correct. She knows that if she follows Kim Joo-hyuk's exact instructions, she will definitely grow much stronger, feeling a little let down by her praise. He just replies that it is fine and training is officially over. For that day, Choi Arin said she would see him again, and he casually agreed. With that settled, the scene shifts directly to the Grand Valhalla Stadium. It was actually Yu So Hyun's first time visiting since the opening ceremony. Oh So Hyun looked around, completely stunned by the massive crowd of first-year students. He never expected this crowd. Choi Arin just watched everything in absolute silence. Quietly keeping to herself, Kim Joo-hyuk wondered why everyone was gathered. Grace chimed in, reminding him that the instructor had explained this weeks ago. The teacher apparently announced it 2 weeks back, which only left him more confused. Since it was so long ago, he forgot. Suddenly, the head instructor demanded quiet. He was ready to lay out the rules for the Valhalla midterm exams. The first actual trial is a dungeon raid where everyone must group up. The staff is already constructing the artificial training ground right before their eyes. With the crowd listening, the senior instructor announces a crucial detail. They are completely free to form teams of up to 8 members for this test. Their final grades will depend entirely on their individual contribution inside the dungeon. But watch out, one brutal elimination rule changes everything. Time hits 0, you get nothing, instantly failed. He clarifies that the dungeon is set to a relatively easy F+ difficulty. With that, he orders the exam to start, and the timer begins ticking down. Panic and desperate murmurs quickly wash over the students as they scramble for allies. The instructors look on, quite pleased with their eagerness. But there is always a catch. Her damage dealer is simply too weak. She immediately starts looking for a replacement, completely ignoring her teammates' protests. He claims he can handle it. She does not care. With 5 hours on the clock, 8 people should easily clear a low-level dungeon. But since individual contribution is what matters most, she needs a perfect lineup. A smaller team of 6 talented members would showcase much better synergy. She confidently orders her team to move out, determined to completely dominate the rankings. The senior instructor watches, knowing that everything is playing out exactly as planned. This elite student clearly understands the real goal of the midterm exam. Most students have no clue, mindlessly grouping up into massive teams of 20. Some stick to the maximum limit of 8, but without proper balance, they will struggle. Messy coordination, clashing personalities, a total disaster. The instructor notes that the first batch of students will enter in 30 minutes. They must be fully prepared to start the official evaluations. The teacher nods. Meanwhile, Kim Joo-hyuk stands there completely unbothered. He quietly wonders if the students who went ahead are already being graded. To be honest, he is still pretty clueless about how this academy operates. Then he spots Choi Arin standing by herself, looking incredibly quiet and shy. Seeing she has not joined a team yet, he walks over to ask her plan. Most of the other academy students have already geared up and headed inside. Choi Arin softly answers that she will do whatever he tells her. Her absolute blind devotion leaves Kim Joo-hyuk feeling a bit caught off guard. He wonders when she got so attached, as she has basically followed his every word. Ever since their intense training session, she has treated him like her absolute commander. Kim Joo-hyuk announces he will enter completely alone, and Cho Ain decides to follow suit. She refuses to take a companion, but he really could not care less. To him, this test is child's play. He walks away. She stays quiet. Nearby, boys whisper about her being alone. Seeing her without a squad, one student decides to strike up a chat. He tries his best to sweet-talk her into joining his team with a friendly invite. But she politely apologizes, turning him down to go inside completely solo. The boy tries to stop her, warning that she will get eliminated immediately. Cho Ain replies she will be fine, since Kim Joo-hyuk said it was simple. You cannot blame the guy for panicking, but his frantic warnings are completely ignored. She ignores them. Confidently, she steps into the dark dungeon alone. By now, all the other students have entered their designated dungeons. They head inside with their squads, completely unaware they are being watched. Inside the observation room, the lead professor watches them all attentively. Silence, then a giant beast suddenly spawns inside one of the dungeons. Instantly, Bunyang Yun grabs 2 quick points, closely followed by Baijai. Bun Jin Su struggles, he only secures a single point. Lee Sang-chul watches the performance with a very serious expression. To the professor, everything seems to be going exactly as he anticipated. The tough grading system highlights the intense rigor of their training. Every student is evaluated with incredible speed and absolute precision. Back in his prime, Lee Sang-chul was known as the absolute master. He was a legendary contractor with an insane 99% success rate. He understands the core of dungeon raiding far better than anyone else. This deep knowledge makes him an incredibly respected and highly effective assessor. Watching the battlefields, he feels this is a truly fantastic year. The 5th-generation students are proving to be exceptionally active and talented. But standing out above everyone else is a truly fearless, brilliant rookie. The impressive Yu So Hyun is already barking out perfect orders to her squad. They are locked in a chaotic clash against fierce dungeon monsters. The beasts assault relentlessly, but Yu So Hyun remains completely calm. She warns her vanguard that the front line must hold at all costs. Archers receive the command to fire, making the giant monster groan in pain. Sharp projectiles strike home as she launches a relentless, fast assault. Her precise, heavy strikes completely finish off the massive virtual beast. The defeated hologram dissolves into light, leaving Lee Sang-chul highly impressed. Her clean execution resembles a textbook, high-rank dungeon raid in every way. Yu So Hyun effortlessly assigned clear, structured roles to maximize their score. They successfully locked down their positions, proving their absolutely incredible team synergy. If she aces these exams, reclaiming her top spot is only a matter of time. After all, if Kim Joo-hyuk had not embarrassed her during the ceremony, her pristine academy record would still be completely spotless right now. With that in mind, Lee Sang-chul decides to check on Kim Joo-hyuk. But wait, as he opens the screen, a bizarre system error pops up. The system cannot find him anywhere, leaving the veteran instructor utterly baffled. Could easily pull up the dungeon records of every student on his screen. Feeling pretty tense about the situation, he decided to check the exam list. He checked the records, specifically the latest practical exam list. Instantly, he saw that Kim Joo-hyuk finished the trial in record time. Yes, 23 minutes and 32 seconds, sitting at first place. Lee Sang-chul was utterly amazed that this kid pulled off a solo run. Totally solo, but that insane clearing speed was truly mind-blowing. Just 23 minutes and 32 seconds, the veteran instructor remained skeptical. He demanded to review the footage, doubting the claims of such a 17-year-old student. Soon, the video started playing. There was Kim Joo-hyuk, standing calmly, holding his massive sword. He was completely unfazed. Directly in front of him stood a massive threat. Dozens of ferocious, terrifying beasts roared, ready to rip him apart. Yet, our hero just casually stretched his limbs and suddenly burst into a sprint. He charged directly at the ugly monsters waiting for him. The creatures glared back, growling fiercely to shake his confidence. But Kim Joo-hyuk did not flinch. His face was cold, determined. He wanted to end this exam quickly, zero hesitation. With lightning speed, he launched devastating attacks right at the horde, sending them into a total frenzy as he began slicing them down. Goblins fell effortlessly. His calm, focused expression never wavered for a second. He faced 2 giant, savage monsters roaring to back him down. But Kim Joo-hyuk just closed the distance in a flash, aiming for a perfect double kill that absolutely pulverized both of those orcs. Clear, the massive room was emptied, leaving his superiors utterly amazed. They were completely speechless, but one final target still remained. He faced the giant golem. He did not say a word. Lee Sang-chul remembered that this specific upgraded golem was meant for a full 8-person team to struggle against during exams. A giant, fearless titan, it showed absolutely zero signs of weakness. But Kim Joo-hyuk looked genuinely excited. He instantly lunged forward, aiming a strike, landing a single, heavy strike straight to the mechanical beast's core. It shattered. The giant golem dissolved into glowing holographic dust. Lee Sang-chul was blown away by this performance and instantly decided. The undisputed champion of this midterm exam was clearly Kim Joo Hyuk. That wrapped up his trial. Outside, other groups were finally exiting, looking completely drained and heavily exhausted from all their own brutal dungeon battles. Some celebrated their narrow victory, but others were furious, especially Yoya. She was visibly irritated and throwing a fit. That arrogant blonde kid looked equally furious, while Choi Aaron silently observed the entire chaotic scene. Kim Joo Hyuk stood nearby, calm and quiet. The midterms were over. Later, the scene shifts over to the faculty room inside the academy. An instructor sat staring at the updated midterm rankings on his screen. Suddenly, he froze. His jaw completely dropped at the insane rankings on his tablet. He hurried over to Lee Sang-chul to report that the exam scores had. The official exam results were finally posted on the school board, and they revealed a highly unexpected outcome, with Kim Joo Hyuk taking the lead. This shocked everyone, even though Liang Chu expected great things. He knew the boy was capable, but soloing a dungeon unharmed was unreal. If he turns pro, South Korea might reclaim its spot as #1 worldwide. It would be back on top. Then, the teacher noticed a prestigious award. It was reserved only for the absolute strongest professional on Earth. Lee Sang-chul grinned, utterly thrilled by the news. It had been a very long time since this many geniuses emerged at once. But the teacher mentioned there was still a surprise in this exam. It was Choi Aaron. Kim Joo Hyuk was fast, but she shocked everyone. Instead of relying on Yuohu, she took on the dungeon completely alone. Nobody expected her to go solo, just like the protagonist of a story. She cleared the entire thing incredibly fast, finishing in record time. Though heavily injured, she successfully completed the trial. The senior instructor knew she was quiet, but this, unbelievable. He never thought she had the grit to conquer a dungeon alone. Had the exam focused on teamwork, Yuohu would have scored the highest. Instead, Kim Joo Hyuk and Choi Aaron claimed the top marks. Yet the instructor would never advise others to try this. It was far too dangerous for normal trainees to attempt. Still, he couldn't stop thinking about Choi Aaron. He remembered her from his guild days, back when she had a weak aura. So how she suddenly gathered the strength to face a dungeon alone remained a mystery. He suspected Kim Joo Hyuk was behind it, but shook his head. That was crazy. He brushed it off to finalize the grades. The next day, students rushed to check the school board. They crowded around the posted sheet, searching for their final scores. And there it was, plain as day, Kim Joo Hyuk in first place. Watching from the shadows, Rockdell Ventrich and his assistant were absolutely fuming. He demanded to know if Desir Ventrich was already in South Korea. She confirmed it, prompting him to order her to call and prepare for departure. They had to move fast, leaving the school behind as things grew tense. Night had fallen over Seoul, with neon lights illuminating the streets of Jamsil. Rockdell Ventrich and his assistant arrived quietly at a restaurant. A crude voice yelled out, greeting him in a completely disrespectful way. It was Desir Ventrich, and they had not met face-to-face in years. Rockdell sat down, watching him eat like a classless animal. The blond man in black clothes stared back with absolute disgust. Desir wiped his mouth and asked about their target. He wanted to know what Kim Joo Hyuk had been up to lately. The report was simple. He was acting like an arrogant fool. Because of his lowly roots, they agreed he must pay. Desir smirked, asking if he should kill him in one shot. Rockdell smiled calmly. The choice was entirely up to him, leaving the brute grinning. He mentioned needing to prepare the council properly, leaving the flashy guy totally speechless. Confused by the claim, he quickly pointed a finger directly at someone. He pointed straight at Julia de Palace because she had triggered a massive clash with that family, and Desir was not quite sure if it was of the sheer group size, though several were already dead from the spread of rumors. Wild rumors were spreading fast, but the elite of Valhalla did not care about the chaos they caused. Rockdell fully understood his comrade's meaning. He swore to arrange a completely perfect scenario so that his partner would not have to worry. The deal with Seal and Desira also required a massive payout for the job. Fast forward to 1 week later. Brace talked with Kim Joo Hyuk and discovered he was trying to leave the academy premises yet again. Brace was confused, but the martial god explained that he possessed official permission to go outside if he performed exceptionally well. On his upcoming exams, he would earn even more chances to step out. Kim Joo Hyuk confirmed he did not want to miss checking his final grades. Curious about his destination, the bespectacled Brace asked exactly where he was planning to go. Meanwhile, over in Suwon province, Kim Joo-hyuk was already on his way to his goal. He was walking toward his destination while checking his phone for coordinates. The location was incredibly close. Suddenly, a chilling voice shouted. Out to him, it was Desura Ventric with a terrifying gaze, saying it was a pleasure to meet. His terrifying presence was unmistakable. But wait, what is happening in Area 7? Local boss, Black Cat, was quietly keeping watch over his massive enterprise from above. From a high rooftop, standing tall with his dark mask. Suddenly, an unexpected warning message flashed, putting the market boss on high. Alert, his contracted constellation, was demanding to know when the legendary ring would arrive. Black Cat quickly responded, saying the magical artifact was already on its way and would arrive safely through the magical portal very soon. The furious ruler on the other side of the transmission called him completely insane. Black Cat was completely bewildered. At his predecessor's request, he had been researching whether this extremely cursed item truly originated from the ancient era of destruction. He had never seen such a reaction. Suddenly, a noise beside him caught his attention as a mysterious black box materialized directly out of the magical portal. Black Cat smiled, knowing this delivery would satisfy those demanding answers. Wasting no time, he carefully peeled open the container with his hands. Inside, the legendary ring radiated a massive wave of dark, highly oppressive magical energy. He sent a message to inform his constellation, but received only silence. Then a sudden, bizarre system alert popped up in front of him, saying they had arrived. The warning text glitched out, repeating over and over. Meanwhile, back in Suwon province, Kim Joo-hyuk calmly confronted his suspicious stalker. The suspicious stranger smirked, scoffing that a dead man had absolutely no need for answers. Kim Joo-hyuk calmly deduced that the stranger wanted something from him. And he was right, nobody climbs up a massive, completely deserted mountain just to have a chat. Kim Joo-hyuk calmly asked directly if the assassin's true intention was to eliminate him, receiving an immediate and terrifyingly cold confirmation. He scoffed, telling Kim Joo-hyuk that any seasoned hunter could have easily sensed it. Kim Joo-hyuk read the boy's intentions easily, having figured them out days ago. Hearing those words, the arrogant Dizzer Aventric completely lost his cool. He spat that for the top rank in Valhalla, the boy seemed incredibly foolish. Calling him petty, he charged forward, yelling at him not to disappoint him. He wound up an incredibly powerful attack, but Kim Joo-hyuk didn't even flinch. He dodged the heavy punch effortlessly, sending his opponent crashing into a nearby tree. The arrogant bully groaned in pain. His hand had actually split the thick wood. He sheared the entire tree in half, sending it crashing to the ground instantly. Dizzer barked that Kim Joo-hyuk was only lucky to have avoided that hit. Otherwise, he'd be dead, but Kim Joo-hyuk just smirked, ready to provoke him further. He casually remarked that the strike was simply too slow for luck to matter. Still, he knew there was a catch. This guy was undeniably strong. His raw power seemed on par with Asuk, or maybe even higher. Blocking those heavy hits with his current fragile body was way too risky. But get this, his actual strategy to win this duel was dead simple. Suddenly, Kim Joo-hyuk bolted, leaving his opponent completely baffled. He was straight up running away, forcing the angry noble to give chase. To Dizzer, running was the only smart choice for a weakling like him. Otherwise, he would have been beaten to death, but he wasn't letting him escape. Then out of nowhere, Kim Joo-hyuk skidded to a sudden halt. He turned and mockingly asked if his enemy even used his rotten brain. Dizzer blinked in confusion, wondering how the boy had closed the distance so fast. He didn't even register the incoming punch until it was right in front of him. A heavy fist slammed straight into his face, the massive impact sending him flying. He crashed hard into the dirt, writhing in pure, unadulterated agony. Struggling to open his eyes through the pain, he gasped in sheer terror. Kim Joo-hyuk's heavy boot was already coming down to crush his face. He barely managed to roll away, narrowly dodging the brutal, bone-crushing stomp. If that had connected, his skull would have shattered instantly. The solid earth actually cratered from the sheer force of the impact. Kim Joo-hyuk praised him mockingly, noting how impressively quick he was to dodge. Furious and humiliated, Dizzer demanded to know what kind of trick he used. Kim Joo-hyuk simply reminded him of his official rank in Valhalla. This reminder only made Dizzer burn with even greater rage. He was completely overwhelmed, bringing a swift end to this brutal clash. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the grand estate of the Aventric family. In the past, they constantly exploited their young son's unique talent to gain influence. The boy possessed an absolute, innate compatibility with rare magical elixirs. He could absorb any high-grade potion without suffering any side effects. His parents kept feeding him incredibly rare and expensive brews. But suddenly, the glass vial slipped from his hands and shattered on the ground. By age 16, he had already grown stronger than any average adult. His family wanted to use him as their ultimate weapon for status. But as Dizzer stared at his parents, his gaze shifted. His expression twisted into something utterly cold, furious, and psychotic. He spent his entire life under their control. Here, his father is. Lying dead on the ground, his body sprawled in the mud, but Desira's overwhelming power meant he no longer had to worry about getting his family's approval. Suddenly, his sister enters the room, looking absolutely furious. To them, this boy was a massive thorn in the Ventric family's side, and he was kicked out by a fake family head, but honestly, he didn't care because money solved all his problems, making him grow even bolder after cutting ties. When he got a job request from Lochdal Ventric, the cash payout was massive, but his focus was on Kim Ju Hyuk instead. The guy had placed first in the entrance exam for Valhalla Academy, and rumors called him a lunatic who kicked out every guild scout who approached him. Messing with someone that wild sounded like fun, and Desira lived for entertainment, expecting an easy win. But get this. There was a major catch to his plan. Who exactly was this freshman? Desira snaps out of his daydream. He demands to know what drugs Kim Ju Hyuk used, since expensive elixirs are out of reach for a mere orphan. This accusation leaves Kim Ju Hyuk completely puzzled, but he quickly bursts out laughing. The assumption is just too hilarious, basically getting accused of using cheap steroids. To the villain, our protagonist looks like a total cheat riding a high. But Desira ignores the laughter, demanding once more to know the secret too. Kim Ju Hyuk replies that he has never touched any performance enhancers, and his power comes solely from intense, brutal, and daily physical training. He even points out that comparing Desira to the powerhouse Oh Si Hyuk would be an insult, since one has real muscle while the other is just a drug cheat. Hearing this, Desira completely loses his mind in sheer rage, even though he cannot access his ultimate trump card right now. He still draws his glowing magic sword. Kim Ju Hyuk looks on highly unimpressed by the show. Desira feels an immense surge of magical energy flooding through him. He screams a challenge, stepping up for a major clash, vowing not to let him off easily. But a sudden, devastating punch shatters his face. Kim Ju Hyuk stands over him with a smug grin, mocking his stupidity. No real fighter waits around for their enemy to charge up. The arrogant bully is sent flying across the field, shrieking in pure agony. Unsatisfied, our hero rushes forward without a shred of mercy, planting another heavy, crushing blow right into his opponent's bruised face. The screams turn into desperate whimpers. Then Kim Ju Hyuk aggressively tells him to keep awake as Desira, battered and dazed, struggles to even keep his eyes open. Our hero snaps at him, yelling that he cannot pass out yet. He mentions that a simple, petty academy dispute could easily be overlooked. But the disgusting methods they used completely erased any chance of forgiveness. There will be no easy escape today, but first Kim Ju Hyuk has a few questions, staring down at his utterly broken and defeated opponent. He warns the bastard to bite down hard on his teeth because the next punch is going to hurt. With that, the brutal chapter ends. Now we head over to the grand dormitory of Valhalla Academy, right inside his private room. That arrogant little brat, Lochdal Ventric, is thinking. Surely Dara Ventric has finished off Kim Ju Hyuk by now. Cleaning up Dara Ventric's messy work is always quite annoying though. Luckily, it did not happen on school grounds, making this absolute perfection. Feeling totally relieved, Lochdal suddenly calls out for his assistant. Julia DePaul quickly answers, and he orders her to fetch a car. She agrees immediately, but then his phone suddenly starts ringing. It seems to be Dara Ventric calling at this exact moment. He eagerly asks if young Nim has finally dealt with Kim Ju Hyuk. Silence, a tense, incredibly eerie silence fills the line. Lochdal Ventric demands answers, only to hear a terrifying, painful groan. Screams of pure agony and despair echo endlessly through the call. Then another voice cuts in, spiking Lochdal's anxiety instantly. It is Kim Ju Hyuk, speaking with a freezing, deadly calm. He coldly translates Dara Ventric's painful groans, saying that Dara wants Rockdell to burn 2 sticks of incense if he dies right now. And with that, he warns Rockdell Ventric to wait for him. Our protagonist tries to keep talking, but the line goes dead. He only hears a sharp click as the phone abruptly disconnects. He gets pretty annoyed at Rockdell Ventric's blatant rudeness. Hanging up without a word, rude. Now he must plan his next move. First problem, what to do with the unconscious Dara Ventric. Meanwhile, far away, warm tea is poured into a beautiful, elegant cup. Julia DePaul politely informs her incredibly annoying boss that it is ready. He stays silent, completely silent. Julia tries to tell him again, but he snaps at her with his usual arrogant, offensive attitude. Delicately, she accepts his harsh words, leaves the tea, and departs. Left alone, Rockdell Ventric cannot stop thinking about Kim Joo-hyuk. He never imagined the kid could actually defeat Dara Ventric. Especially after everything, now he faces a massive question of what to do. Now the truth is out, and Dara Ventric has ruined the entire plan. It is only a matter of time before this news reaches his family. Things are spiraling, but Rockdell Ventric tries to calm himself down. Maybe the problem is not that big. Kim Joo-hyuk is from humble origins. He cannot possibly reach them, so the blonde boy decides to play it safe. He will avoid talking about this and simply lay low for a while. Meanwhile, back in the quiet forest, Kim Joo-hyuk continues his journey. He and Brace converse telepathically about Dara Ventric. They plan to expose his cunning later, since they cannot act right now. The guy with the odd glasses asks why Kim Joo-hyuk did not just end him. He replies that past issues should not be confused with the present. The point is taken, but Brace still has another burning question. A question that really sparks Kim Joo-hyuk's intense curiosity. It is about the magic Dara Ventric used, which felt oddly familiar. Seeing his friend's confusion, Brace begins to explain exactly why. Though it was not fully confirmed, he had definitely sensed this energy before. In a silent mental link, the protagonist told his companion that 300 years ago, monsters sacrificed dogs and cows to wield that kind of dark magic. Brace mocked Kim Joo-hyuk, claiming he lacked the skill to read people through magic, and was completely incapable of such feats, which left the protagonist highly annoyed. He asked if the hidden side of the sword Dara Ventric mentioned was connected to that power, to which Brace gave a non-committal response, wrapping up there. Silent chat. Kim Joo-hyuk then demanded to know who sent the arrogant boy. The battered young challenger only groaned in agonizing pain, completely unable to speak. Kim Joo-hyuk soon realized that Dara Ventric had a dislocated jaw from the previous beating. He quickly shoved both of his thumbs straight inside the captive boy's mouth, warning him of the intense pain he was about to feel before violently yanking his jaw right back into place with massive force. With that done, he started another interrogation, asking once more who had given orders to Dara Ventric. The kid remained dead silent, thinking it over for a second. Kim Joo-hyuk stared back with an incredibly serious, chilling expression. He ordered him to talk, having fixed his jaw solely for this purpose, and warned that keeping his mouth shut was a terrible decision right now. Frantic, Dara Ventric demanded to know why he was grabbing his fingers, and trust me, Kim Joo-hyuk did not hesitate to twist them. The boy shrieked in excruciating pain as his fingers were violently bent back. The protagonist threatened his broken opponent once more to extract the truth. Desperate, Dara Ventric finally squealed that his own brother ordered the hit. Kim Joo-hyuk had already suspected that Troublemaker was behind this entire scheme. He immediately demanded full details regarding the background of this rogue fighter, since he clearly did not belong to the elite academy of Valhalla. Dara Ventric stammered in fear, attempting to threaten the protagonist by warning him that he would pay for this. Annoyed by this pathetic bluff, Kim Joo-hyuk snapped 2 more of his fingers. The captive quickly confessed he worked for the first species, serving as a dirty mercenary for shady private jobs. Kim Joo-hyuk had heard of these lowlifes before and openly mocked him for being a simple, glorified paid bully. Dara spat back that Kim Joo-hyuk looked down on everyone as trash and was only incredibly lucky. He then revealed that the ancient constellation, worshipped by his species, was indeed connected to that mysterious blade, and he also held a contract with it. He bragged that if he had just 30 more seconds to charge his magic, the battle would have ended very differently. Kim Joo-hyuk told Dara he talked far too much, noting he would have spared him if he had simply named his employer quickly instead of stalling. Once again, he jammed his thumbs deep into the boy's mouth and told him. He looked much better quiet, violently dislocating his jaw once again, finishing. This intense, brutal confrontation. Soon, multiple alerts popped up on Kim Joo-hyuk's phone confirming that the targets belonged to a highly dangerous, malicious faction. Even so, the protagonist was annoyed that the crucial notes remained missing, and Lochdil Ventrick was actively trying to frame him. He pondered how to utterly ruin that arrogant brat's reputation, concluding that he should use a much more modern strategy. He had fully recorded Desira's confession, and now he just needed to find a quick spot to post all that. Suddenly, Kim Joo-hyuk made a call. He called his teacher, who was completely shocked by his sudden call. She assumed he finally agreed to assist her, but she was dead wrong. He only wanted to know if she could introduce him to some highly famous and well-known journalists. Once he got his answers, the call ended. Soon, wild rumors started spreading. Headlines exploded about the Ventrick family trying to assassinate a student from Valhalla. Major news outlets exploded with shocking reports about the attack. Online forums were quickly flooded, with people summarizing all the chaotic events. Naturally, Kim Joo-hyuk's name leaked all over the web, linking him directly. He smiled, loving this modern warfare. Race even praised his quick adaptation. Kim Joo-hyuk shrugged it off, explaining that this was simply the result of painful struggle. He spent countless hours reading messy internet forums and analyzing the daily news. All that studying had shaped Kim Joo-hyuk into the brilliant person he was today. He understood every single move, yet Barty was still deeply confused by it. Kim Joo-hyuk explained his target was only Lochdil Ventrick, not everyone else. But the fallout dragged his entire family name into the mud instead. His teacher's press contacts surely did a massive job. The story exploded, forcing the Ventrick family to set up a public podium. They quickly set up a grand stage for an official family statement. Cameras flashed aggressively, putting intense pressure on her as she prepared to speak. First, she apologized sincerely to the student who was targeted. She also bowed to Valhalla Academy before stating their official position. She insisted that the entire incident was actually an act of personal rebellion. Desira acted completely on his own, and they had already officially excommunicated him. Still, a recorded confession showed Desira claiming that Lochdil gave the order. According to the family head, Lochdil was merely trying to escape his own mess. Because of that, she insisted the main family was completely innocent. However, since a former member committed the crime, they still felt some responsibility. They had a moral duty to fix this heavy situation as soon as possible. The family head even promised to visit the victim personally to apologize. She casually added that Lochdil Ventrick might be involved in some way. Therefore, he was being summoned back home to face a serious inquiry. A formal investigation by the prosecutors would clear up any remaining doubts. With her speech done, the reporters went absolutely wild with their cameras. She quickly slipped away, refusing to answer any deeper questions about her plans. Meanwhile, Lochdil Ventrick stared at his phone, his face twisted in absolute fury. He could not believe his entire life was falling apart right before his eyes. Then the worst possible thing happened. His phone started ringing loudly. It was his father. He answered the call instantly without hesitation. His father coldly ordered him to return to England, effective immediately. This was a direct family command, and he had to obey it. He slammed the phone down, screaming and cursing in pure madness. His maid, Julia DePaulis, stood frozen nearby, trembling in absolute terror. Elsewhere, investigators were heavily pressuring Darrow to spill the truth. But he stubbornly swore that the Ventrick family was innocent. He was right, as he alone was behind the crime. Kim Joo-hyuk was pretty impressed. The boy was swallowing his pride. Darrow completely despised the Ventrick family. Kim Joo-hyuk wondered who would apologize to him in person, especially since the entire situation was already uncomfortable. Suddenly, he became incredibly alert. He was already right near the faculty office when he realized class might have ended early. Still, he was pretty unsure whom to ask for a quick favor. He then headed over to the Valhalla Cafe. The gray-haired teacher was in a fantastic mood, but Kim Joo-hyuk shut her down with another quick no. He knew she would ask. It was incredibly obvious. She then asked why he even called, claiming she was a ridiculously busy and overworked person. She was completely stunned, secretly hoping for a romantic date, only to be instantly scolded by Kim Joo-hyuk, leaving her to ponder his disrespectful words. He pointed out they had always spoken like this, too, which she indeed agreed. Kim Joo-hyuk then explained that the call was not out of boredom but to thank her. He offered to share some valuable info on dealing with monsters, which made her incredibly happy to hear. But there was a catch, which she accepted instantly since it was an easy favor letting him take a day off from school. Still, she tried to convince him once more to be her assistant, but had absolutely no luck. Meanwhile, far away in the cold waters of the northern Pacific, aboard the criminal transport ship Al-08, Dezura sat locked inside a cold cell. He was furious. He never imagined being thrown onto a ship like this. Treated like mere cargo to be transferred to the Tower prison. It was a prison. Right in the middle of the North Pacific Ocean, a massive S-class Constellation built this isolated fortress to turn all contractors back into completely normal humans, but Dezura did not care about any of that. He was only keeping quiet so Rockdale would not get kicked out of the Ventric family. And to shave 5 years off his prison sentence, 5 measly years meant absolutely nothing to him. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed. A bright red light flashed past, completely unrecognizable. Then, someone stood right in front of Dezura, and trust me, this unexpected visitor is bad news. The man who just arrived was Cook. He immediately drove a dagger deep into Dezura's stomach, standing there staring coldly while firmly gripping the hilt with his right hand. Cook wanted Dezura dead, saying the first species had no use for someone like him. Dezura groaned in pure agony from the deep wound and collapsed face first onto the cold floor, completely helpless. Cook just watched him, bleeding out with zero intention of helping. Meanwhile, at the Grand Ventric family mansion, the leader was visibly furious over the recent disaster. She glared daggers at Rockdale Ventric and his father, Eden Ventric. First, she called the arrogant boy by name. He quickly answered her. Without hesitation, she bluntly asked what he planned to do next, leaving him pretty confused. He immediately offered a sincere apology, but she thought it was far too late considering how massive the issue was, and that such empty apologies solved absolutely nothing. The leader then demanded that Rockdale Ventric explain in full detail why he had committed such a malicious act. He answered right away, putting an end to that part of the talk. After hearing his excuse, the leader glared. She knew what he was planning. He wanted to handle Kim Joo-hyuk, and honestly, he wasn't wrong, but she was absolutely furious. The whole excuse felt incredibly shallow, petty, and downright insulting to her intelligence. Rockdale claimed he acted alone to protect family honor from Kim Joo-hyuk. But the leader knew this was purely about his fragile, wounded ego. And because of his selfishness, he dragged their prestigious family name through the dirt. She hadn't decided his punishment, driving the arrogant boy to panic. Absolutely desperate, he blurted out that he would do absolutely anything to fix this. Anything to save the Ventric family's pride, but she scoffed. But to her, there was only one logical way to clean up this mess. To restore their honor, she had to expel him immediately. His father protested, begging that this was far too severe. So she coldly asked Eden Ventric if he wanted to take his son's place. That shut him up. He stood silent, sweating with fear. Honestly, the leader wanted the brat gone or dead right then. But doing that now would prove Rockdale Ventric was guilty. Guilty of ordering that shadow assassin Dezura to strike. She looked down at the boy and called his name. He dropped to his knees instantly. She promised not to expel him yet. She ordered him to return to Valhalla quietly and wait. Once your clash with Kim Joo-hyuk is settled, I will decide your fate. Rockdale Ventric bowed in deep relief, but she instantly turned to Eden. Watch your useless son closely. Your position depends entirely on him. Eden agreed quickly. With a cold wave, she dismissed everyone. The two walked out of the room, faces dark with anger. Eden Ventric snapped at his son to shut up and stay quiet. But the father completely missed the leader's actual threat. The brutal truth was that Rockdale Ventric's expulsion was guaranteed. They just couldn't act immediately with the press watching them. Once the dust settles, she will officially drop the hammer. But before that day comes, they must make a move. With no one left to stop them, Rockdale demanded his father's help. Eden hesitated but ultimately agreed, warning him to proceed very carefully. The tense family drama wrapped up for now, ending the chapter. A few days later, our story shifts back to Valhalla Academy. Inside an interview room, a serious conversation is starting. The professor tells Kim Joo-hyuk that the family head is coming to apologize. But the boy argues that this has nothing to do with them. She made their non-involvement extremely clear during the delegation. Still, the professor says accepting the apology is smart. Besides, that powerful woman is already on her way to Korea anyway. Kim Joo-hyuk narrows his eyes, realizing they want to handle things privately. They want to deal with Rockdale Ventric themselves. And she is only coming because she has no other choice. Honestly, he found the situation pretty irritating. The professor shared his worries. He also brought up instructor Lee Sang-tu's deep anxiety regarding the current situation. According to official protocols, a Valhalla Academy student had been targeted and attacked. The culprit confessed he was taking direct orders, but there was a catch. This influential family was desperately trying to save face by dismissing all clear evidence. They seemed far more focused on covering things up than facing reality. To keep students safe, either Rockdale Ventrich or their leader had to leave. Unfortunately, the professor noted that this powerful family had donated massive sums before. They had poured significant funds into the school, making punishment highly unlikely. The academy relied heavily on those donations, so they would likely look away. Money talks. Kim Joo-hyuk understood exactly what his professor was trying to say. Without hesitation, he agreed to sit down and speak directly with her. He was too calm. The level-headedness caught the professor completely off guard. The young man was incredibly composed, but Kim Joo-hyuk simply brushed it off. Always like this. Then, a sudden knock at the door interrupted them. The professor announced that the family leader had arrived and offered to let her in. He stepped out, hoping they would have a productive discussion. Bowing deeply, he politely opened the door and welcomed the elegant woman inside. She returned the greeting gracefully before slowly stepping into the quiet room. Adelia Ventrich introduced herself as she locked eyes with young Kim Joo-hyuk. He offered a polite nod back, and soon they were seated across from each other. For a long, tense moment, the two of them just silently stared. Adelia immediately brought up the incident involving Dara, wasting no time at all. She offered a sincere apology, but Kim Joo-hyuk noted that Dara's expulsion settled things. Still, she mentioned hearing rumors that Rockdale Ventrich had also been causing trouble. A minor thing, he shrugged it off as something from the past. It only happened once, he said, and it was already far behind them. Since Rockdale had no link to this incident, there would be no public statement. But Adelia insisted they needed to have a much more serious conversation. She wanted to discuss the case thoroughly and draft an official joint statement. Currently, neither the media nor the public was paying any attention to it. He silently agreed, knowing her family had a terrible reputation for telling lies. Since nobody believed them, she wanted to create a perfect chance to clear things up. She desperately asked if he could help them resolve this massive misunderstanding. A flat refusal, he turned her down instantly, but she kept pushing. She promised full financial backing throughout his remaining years at the academy. Offering a recommendation to an elite guild, she tried to sweeten the deal. This would guarantee him an incredibly successful career as a professional hunter. Kim Joo-hyuk asked if a simple statement would really make everything go away. It was clear they were offering a fortune just to buy his silence. Now watch, they were getting desperate. Adelia's face instantly went cold. Hearing this direct challenge, she turned incredibly serious as Kim Joo-hyuk continued speaking. He explained his anger stemmed from their continuous attempts to cover up the truth. Demanding no rewards, he made it clear his allies would never support this. He only wanted to watch the utter disgrace Rockdale Ventrich brought upon their name. Outraged, she hurls insults as her body suddenly begins to transform. Pure rage, she cannot stand being treated like a completely ordinary nobody. Kim Joo-hyuk just laughs, mocking her for finally losing her cool. She snaps, she only wanted to make things incredibly easy for him. Instead, she got nothing but arrogance. Now she wants him dead. She wanted to be generous, but this brat is throwing it all away. Bring it, Kim Joo-hyuk smirked, daring her to go ahead and attack. This only fuels her rage. He casually mentions her family's public statement. The one claiming her prestigious family had absolutely nothing to do with this. She tries to cover that lie with cash, yet now wants to kill. He doubts her. He openly questions her strength, driving her even wilder. You cannot kill me anyway, he adds, throwing fuel on the fire. Instantly, Adelia Ventrich shifts back to normal and demands a private chat. She promises to make him regret every single word he just spoke. All talk to him, she is just barking with absolutely no bite. Barch steps in, suggesting that Kim Joo-hyuk did not need to push. Telepathy, the two start communicating silently, and Kim Joo-hyuk complains to Barch. He hates arrogant fools and knows exactly what Adelia Ventrick is planning. He curses her repeatedly, then turns his frustration on Barch's passive attitude. Finally, Kim Joo-hyuk calms down, realizing his classes are all finished. He can head over to the training center early in the morning. Next up, we find ourselves right outside the massive Valhalla Stadium. Kim Joo-hyuk strolls along, scrolling on his phone until he bumps into someone. Surprise, standing right there is the incredibly cute girl, Choi Aron. Standing right in front of her is the eldest son of the Cho family, Cho Jinmin. He is arrogantly telling her that she has zero chance of defeating him. No hope. Training hard inside Valhalla is not going to help her at all. If she wants to remain in the family, she must skip the test. Why? Because he does not want to see her completely humiliated. But her sharp, immediate rejection leaves him looking completely stunned and confused. How dare she? He offered a generous chance, and she just threw it away. Choi Aron tries to respond, but a sudden, loud voice cuts in. Idiot! Someone calls him a complete fool who is totally misinterpreting things. Being insulted in public like this instantly makes Cho Jinmin boil with anger. Kim Joo-hyuk steps up, defending her effort from this arrogant trash talk. Who is this? Cho Jinmin is lost, demanding to know who he is. After all, they do not even know each other, let alone trade insults. Kim Joo-hyuk does not care one bit about his family authority. He warns him never to trespass on school grounds to bully other students. Get lost, he orders him to leave immediately and never come back. Turning to Choi Aron, Kim Joo-hyuk asks if she agrees with him. Absolutely, her instant agreement leaves Cho Jinmin fuming in utter silence. He mutters a threat about the upcoming test before finally storming off. Choi Aron thanks him, but he simply tells her to go train. She quietly confesses she was actually thinking of a completely different proposal. This alternative path sparked Kim Joo-hyuk's curiosity. He wanted details. She explained she would have insulted him rather than asking him to leave. Hearing this utterly wild idea, Kim Joo-hyuk scolded her, thinking she was crazy. The two quickly planned their training schedule while walking toward the local facility. A few days later, they headed out toward a remote mountain in Shahung. Deep inside a thick, quiet forest, Kim Joo-hyuk was busy searching for a location. Guided by his cell phone, he walked as Brace asked about his old notes. Confirming it, Kim Joo-hyuk nodded, but Brace still had plenty of doubts. Since they had already found several relics, Brace questioned his ultimate goal. Kim Joo-hyuk explained his goal. He wanted to track down every missing note. He was deeply driven by the incredible secrets those lost writings might hold. Brace remained totally baffled, but the hunter knew exactly what he was after. He wanted to bypass the heavy struggles he faced as Kim Hun-ho. Besides, if he had met Brace 3 centuries ago, he might not have killed him. That bombshell left Brace flustered. Now, we switch to the Grand Chajin mansion. A massive crowd of eager reporters and paparazzi had gathered outside the gates. They gossiped endlessly about the elite candidates arriving for this high-stakes test. Suddenly, everything fell silent. A prominent family authority figure stepped into view. Chajin Group leader, Cho Jon-saduk, stepped forward to deliver his critical announcement. He declared that the final selection test was about to begin immediately. Only the ultimate winner would claim the throne as the sole official successor. And the losers, they would face instant, brutal exile from the family. Standing nearby, Choi Jun-suk asked the candidates if they were fully prepared. They roared back in absolute agreement. Choi Jun-suk took a deep breath. He officially announced the primary task. They had to retrieve a hidden double blade. Finding that weapon deep within the massive mountains was the ultimate test. Whoever brought back the artifact would claim absolute victory in this trial. No rules, no restrictions. He instantly ordered the chaotic battle to commence. Choi Iron's arrogant opponent immediately charged forward, celebrating his early head start. His plan was simple: let her find the blade first, then steal it. The greedy boy fully intended to snatch the blade right from her hands. With his underhanded scheme set, the focus shifts directly to the past. In a flashback, Cho Jin-gun bid farewell to Cho Yun before leaving. He departed feeling utterly humiliated after Kim Joo-hyuk practically kicked him out. Just then, the phone inside his pocket rang loudly. Answering it quickly, he was met with a stern voice demanding updates. Cho Jingun sheepishly explained the situation regarding the coveted double blade. This extra step would make his job far more difficult and time-consuming. Hearing about this tedious selection test again made the caller grow deeply irritated. Cho Jingun apologized immediately. He was fully aware of his blunder. He asked if retrieving the double blade would guarantee his promise was kept. The caller firmly reassured him their deal was bound to be honored. After all, their contract was witnessed by a constellation, making it unbreakable. Because of this, the man ordered him to focus entirely on his target. Cho Jingun quickly agreed as the scene transitions back to the present. Choi Jingun believed the artifact belonged to him and he would find it no matter what. Meanwhile, Choi Arin suddenly halts in her tracks to unleash her inner mana. She senses a faint residual magic nearby, meaning the coveted double blade is likely still hidden here. By her calculations, she only needs another 15 minutes to locate it. Just like that, she locks onto the exact direction of the double blade. But right then, her rival Choi Jingun intercepts her at the exact same location. He sneers, asking if she is really tracking the weapon through raw magical residue. Demanding to know who taught her that secret technique, she proudly credits her master, Kim Joo-hyuk. In this moment, her mind flashes back to the day she asked Kim Joo-hyuk about controlling mana. He agreed to help her since she already understood the absolute basics. Kim Joo-hyuk pointed out that she had already mastered converting her magic into raw lightning. But that was just the bare minimum, and she could only nod along in agreement. He told her to practice small, precise mana exercises instead of grand moves. Curious about how to even begin, she quickly asked him what method to use. Kim Joo-hyuk found the question strange, assuming her prestigious family had already taught her. Realizing her family had not, she felt a sudden wave of quiet sadness. Her face fell, but Kim Joo-hyuk brushed it off as if it was nothing. He asked if her training was limited to borrowing power from her constellation. She admitted that was all she knew, only gathering raw energy to fight. Laughing, he admits he is not very good at that style either. He instructed her to relax her body completely, from her fingertips down to her toes. Her goal was to gently push the magic outward, letting it flow like water. She had to guide the mana to the tip of every single strand of hair. From there, Choi Arin attempted to perceive the ambient magic drifting around them. She focused instantly without a shred of hesitation, and her vision suddenly warped. The world shifted, revealing a hidden layer of energy she never knew existed. Her eyes widened in shock as she took a shaky breath, completely overwhelmed. Kim Joo-hyuk asked if she felt it, and she nodded quickly, utterly breathless. She explained that she could see the swirling aura radiating directly from him. He confirmed that this is what true mana feels like, even when kept completely dormant. By focusing her mind, she could learn to master and control this delicate flow. He advised her to hone this sense to track magical residues lingering in the air. If she practiced, she would eventually recognize the distinct signature of every magic item. Soon, she would be able to read those traces as clearly as a map. With enough dedication, she could even visualize the precise silhouette of hidden items. However, he warned her that this was as far as his guidance could go. The rest of the journey was up to her, and she eagerly agreed. Back in the present, she puts those exact lessons to the test and watch how it pays off. Hearing this, Choi Jingun demands to know who this Kim Joo-hyuk guy even is. He scoffs, calling him a brainless fraud, which instantly pushes her button. Furious at the disrespect, Choi Arin grits her teeth, ready to defend her master. She spits back that Kim Joo-hyuk is 1,000 times stronger than him. Mocking her defense, the arrogant young master slowly draws his weapon as tension rises. He declares he is here to fight, immediately initiating a brutal clash. But mid-strike, he feels an incredibly heavy pressure radiating from her. This frail girl was pushing him back without even trying. He backs away, breathing heavily, completely blown away. How on earth did this little girl become so incredibly strong? Meanwhile, things shift to Kim Joo, who is desperately searching the area. He used all his magic to find it, but found nothing. So many hidden, but only one ended up in Valhalla. Suddenly, an incredibly bright light burst right out of the ground. Kim Joo celebrated. Another note was definitely there. He locked onto its signal. It was extremely close now, but out of nowhere, a massive explosion erupted, leaving him totally confused. But wait, the main battle isn't over yet. The brutal clash between Choi Arin and Cho Jingun rages on. Both of them fight tirelessly, wielding their incredibly sharp blades. She quickly prepares to unleash a devastating blow. Without hesitation, she swings her sword with absolute force at Cho Jin-gun. He flies back, gasping for breath and looking visibly shaken. He mocks her, calling her a wild boar of Valhalla who only has physical strength. Choi Aaron tells him to give up on the double-edged sword. He snarls back instantly, asking if she has completely lost her mind. He claims an illegitimate daughter like Choi Aaron does not deserve it. Aaron focuses as she watches the boy charge straight toward her. She grips her weapon firmly. The furious boy charges in to attack. He is ready to strike, but she quickly plans her next move. She spins her blade rapidly, executing a lightning-fast upward slash. Knocking his sword away, she aims to land a direct, heavy hit. She pulls it off flawlessly with incredible speed and skill. Cho Jin-gun grimaces in sheer agony, his face completely twisted in intense pain. He crashes to the dirt, defeated. Choi Aaron takes a deep breath. Feeling a wave of relief, she never expected to land such a blow. She aimed to hit him once, but this was a devastating critical strike. She immediately moves toward the double-edged sword, but a chilling voice stops her. A mocking voice echoes, sending a shiver of fear right down her spine. Cho Jin-gun stands back up, completely unfazed by her powerful attack. He reminds her of what he said before, her blessing is worthless. She can never defeat him now because he holds a special contract. Cho Jin-gun claims she only landed that hit because he was off guard. He gives her credit for that, but she demands to know about his magic. Dark energy surrounds his weapon, making him look like a true villain. He sneers back, telling her she has absolutely no right to know. Mocking her blatantly, he watches as Choi Aaron prepares another strike. He charges forward without a second thought, completely catching her off guard. He dodges her strike at point-blank range and delivers a brutal blow. She crashes hard to the ground, groaning in sheer pain and defeat. Standing over her, the boy mockingly asks if she is done yet. He warns her it is better to just stay down and die. Clutching her side, she suddenly feels a strange, cold sensation taking over. With her deep wound bleeding, Cho Jin-gun mocked her, telling her to stay down. It was the only way to avoid death. She then asked about his contract, wondering if it was with some malicious and wicked constellation. Boy explained that as the Jinsa Guild leader, he had signed a contract with an A-class entity, but was now allied with the devotees, leaving the girl completely shocked. She knew that name, the third most dangerous group in the world. Choi Aaron questioned their constellation contracts, asking if their membership benefits were really worth throwing away her life. He just mocked her. He was ready to answer. He boasted about the incredible dark powers and absolute authority he received, along with the power to detach from humanity, leaving Choi Aaron completely lost and highly skeptical about his bizarre claims. Cho Jin-gun explained how he joined the Jinsa Guild when he was only 12. He had worked for his family since childhood, at an age when he only wanted to play, remaining in the guild because of his father's strict control, not by choice. During his rebellious teenage years, filled with twisted desires, he met a member of the devotees. That man encouraged him to join, promising to fulfill every single dark desire of his heart. Cho Jin-gun realized the man must have seen through his dark nature. Leaving the girl completely horrified, he explained his deepest urge was to break fragile humans, but joining them was not easy. First, he had to fulfill the condition of securing the double sword relic. If she had just given up earlier, he would have taken the weapon without any real trouble, and she would not have had to trigger this second test. Hearing this, Choi Aaron felt incredibly confused. Something about this test did not make sense, and her blank reaction astonished him. He revealed that 10 years ago, the eldest daughter of the Choi family, Cho Ajin, took the first selection test, leaving Choi Aaron completely stunned. She had never known about this. Now she realized her older sister had vanished during that very evaluation. Cho Jin-gun admitted he could not control his sick, overwhelming desires, confessing that before searching for the double sword, he murdered her sister in the mountains, yet he failed to find the relic and got badly injured, ruining his plans. He could have joined his masters 10 years ago. Either way, her father eventually found her and secretly locked her away in an institution where Cho Jin-gun left her, intending for her to slowly disappear. But something changed, and Choi Aaron wanted to know where her sister was kept, but the vicious bastard just sneered, telling her that now was not the time to search and she should just give up. He then detailed how her poor mother completely collapsed in absolute despair, crying endlessly. She saw her lost daughter's face in Choi Aaron, Cho Jingun. Then finished his mocking story, turning back to the double sword. He prepared his final strike, telling her to greet her dead sister, and swung with all his might directly at Choi Aaron's head, but a sudden deafening blast shattered the air, shocking Cho Jingun. There, standing right in front of them, was Kim Jae-hyuk. Talk about perfect timing. Just blocked the deadly attack, saving Choi Aaron from an absolutely fatal strike. To wrap up this intense showdown, Kim Joo-hyuk leaps into action heroically. He demands to know what Cho Jingun is doing, but gets told it is just family business. The villain tells him to back off, but our hero calls their group completely insane. He glares intensely before landing a devastating blow on the guy threatening his own sister. The attacker goes flying through the air, his face contorted in absolute agony. Cho Yarin tries desperately to call out to her heroic savior. She shouts his name, trying to get his attention even for just a second. She quickly asks what he is doing here, while Kim Joo-hyuk considers his options. He actually only came here to find his vault, but notices Cho Ain nearby. She is desperately clutching her stomach, trying to stop the heavy bleeding. Our hero's eyes widen as he realizes how deep and severe her wound actually is. He tells her he has some business to settle here, so she needs to relax. He orders her to step back and focus her magic on healing that nasty injury. She quickly nods while Cho Jingun slowly struggles back to his feet. He wonders who this newcomer is, questioning if he is that arrogant student from Valhalla. He barks that this is strictly family business and they should stay out of it. Snarling with rage, he charges directly at our main character with his massive weapon. He channels every drop of his physical strength and magical power into the blade. The sword erupts in a bright purple glow, but the incoming strike suddenly fails. The attack misses completely, leaving Cho Jingun utterly stunned by Kim Joo-hyuk's sheer speed. He dodges the thrust effortlessly and casually starts lecturing him on proper combat technique. He points out that you should never aim your weapon at a stationary target. You must target a moving opponent, demonstrating his point with a swift strike. The villain screams in agony as a heavy, brutal blow connects with his body. Blood sprays from his mouth from the impact, but Kim Joo-hyuk is not done yet. Our hero continues his relentless onslaught, keeping his opponent completely overwhelmed and cornered. He is pushed backward until another brutal strike hits him out of nowhere. The devastating punch lands squarely in the center of his defenseless torso. He crashes hard into the dirt, shattering the ground beneath him. He looks completely lifeless, utterly broken by the overwhelming power of Kim Joo-hyuk. Our hero silently looks down at his fallen foe before asking if Orim is all right. She quickly confirms she is fine, and he asks if she is able to stand. As she tries to move, a sudden surge of purple mana catches his attention. Thick, magical smoke begins pouring out of Cho Jingun's battered body. Brace suddenly warns Kim Joo-hyuk that the opponent is wielding a magic sword. Our hero acknowledges this, asking if the guy is truly pure evil. Suddenly, the villain anchors his feet firmly and pushes himself back up. He stands up tall, screaming furious curses and insults directly at our protagonist. He barks that our hero is just some worthless freshman from Valhalla. He yells not to underestimate a guild leader, raising his weapon. But his incoming thrust is instantly blocked with ease by Kim Joo-hyuk. Cho Jingun is shocked to find that even magic cannot force our hero back. Kim Joo-hyuk addresses the offensive leader directly, questioning his choice of battle stance. He mockingly asks if this position suits him better, launching another devastating strike. The leader is sent flying into the distance, his face completely battered. Ruined and speechless, he could only wonder how this opponent possessed such insane power. He blocked every single strike and counterattacked instantly. This was no ordinary teenager. No 17-year-old should be this strong. Cho Jingun realized he had to use his ultimate trump card. The backlash would be severe, but if he kept taking a beating, he would lose anyway. So he decided to use the artificial relics to force a temporary contract with a constellation. While the villain plotted his desperate move, Kim Joo-hyuk simply stared him down. Suddenly, Cho Jingun burst into a wicked, malicious laugh that echoed across the area. He unleashed every single ounce of dark magic hidden within his body. A sudden earthquake erupted, throwing the entire selection test site into absolute panic. Nearby, an alarmed reporter quickly called his contact to report something highly unusual. Thick purple smoke was rising high into the sky from the middle of the forest. Watching from afar, the family leader wondered what could cause such a massive disturbance. He realized it was a dense magical sword, easily visible, and located right in the trial grounds. Normally, he would never interfere, but this situation was getting far too dangerous. He knew he had to step in and take immediate action to stop it. Back at the site, Kim Joo-hyuk and Cho Jin-gun stared each other down intensely. Kim Joo-hyuk calmly mentioned he was just watching, which only fueled his opponent's anger. Cho Jin-gun spat out a curse, telling him that this display was just the beginning. He boasted that the massive earthquake was merely a side effect of his new power. This is the true strength of a constellation, he sneered, trying to intimidate the young warrior. Suddenly, the legendary dragon that kills everyone recognized the sacred relic. It grinned with absolute satisfaction, immediately activating its most terrifying ability. This legendary gaze penetrates nature, allowing it to see through all things. Yet throughout all of this, Kim Joo-hyuk maintained a perfectly calm and serene expression. Then the unexpected happened. The massive dragon suddenly widened its eye in sheer terror. It took a timid, shaking glance at the young man who was staring right back. Panicking, the beast deactivated its eye, then turned it right back on. It looked incredibly jumpy. There was no denying it was absolutely consumed by fear. The beast realized it had to escape immediately, leaving Cho Jin-gun completely baffled. The dragon that kills everyone loudly declared it was canceling the summon right now. It rejected the relic, broke the contract, took back its power, and fled the scene. Abandoning Cho Jin-gun entirely, the dragon vanished as Kim Joo-hyuk and Choi Aaron watched. As the lingering magic faded, Kim Joo-hyuk stepped right up to his opponent. He pressed the cold tip of his sword directly against Cho Jin-gun's stomach. With a cold whisper, he asked, "So, who is killing who right now?" Before he could answer, a brutal physical strike sent Cho Jin-gun flying backward. He screamed in agony, clutching his shattered midsection as he crashed through the dirt. He collapsed to the ground, completely knocked cold and utterly defeated. Meanwhile, the leader of the devotees, the Dragon King Han Nibble, was utterly shocked. The dragon that kills everyone was furious, screaming that he had caused a massive disaster. The beast roared out, asking if he wanted to be erased from existence entirely. Han Nibble instantly began trembling and begged the powerful constellation for forgiveness. But he was brutally slammed headfirst into the ground, forced onto his knees. The dragon left him with a chilling warning to stop distributing those artificial relics. If he disobeyed, there would be nowhere left for him to hide. A swift agreement, but the deity warned him to behave. Soon the head devotee struggled to his feet, grimacing in sheer confusion. His body ached. Why had his master become so angry? Why did his god show such terror? As for the fake relic, the mole inside the Chojin family definitely failed. He screwed up, but those chilling words from the constellation haunted him. It almost sounded like the almighty deity was actually afraid of something. He needed answers fast. Meanwhile, the scene shifted back to the dorms. Right inside Kim Joo-hyuk's room, a wave of relief finally washed over. After that chaotic ordeal, he could finally breathe. He reached into his bag. He pulled out his prize, silently celebrating. He actually pulled it off. He held the rare divine arts. Bray stared at it, completely puzzled. Kim Joo-hyuk explained that these exact papers were his target all along. This technique was a highly efficient breathing method to gather massive magical power. Brace immediately asked about his old cultivation strategy. Kim Joo-hyuk brushed it off. That was for when he was weak. Besides, 300 years ago, his old body was already fully developed. He could not switch to these divine arts back then. He was locked in. In his past life, when he fought Barry, his bad technique ruined him. It constantly drained his energy, which ultimately led to his tragic defeat. But with a fresh body, he can finally start over. This changes everything. He would pause physical training to master these divine arts first. Brace then brought up what happened earlier. Why leave Choi Aaron behind? She was left all alone with that unconscious, dangerous villain. Kim Joo-hyuk explained that he sensed someone approaching. He had to slip away, but he knew she would handle things. Let us wind the clock back to the climax of that fight. Cho Jin-yun lay unconscious. Kim Joo-hyuk stared down with worry. Brace anxiously asked if he had actually killed the guy. Kim Joo-hyuk shook his head. Killing him would cause too much trouble. It would mess up everything. His faint magic signature meant he would pull through eventually. Race agreed. Kim Joo-hyuk then checked if Choi Aron could stand. She managed to nod, but before they could speak, he heard footsteps. Someone was coming, her family most likely, which would ruin his search. If they caught him here, retrieving those notes would be impossible. He quickly called out to her, and she looked up instantly. He told her to rest since her family was already almost there. He explained that he must leave, and she softly nodded in understanding. He instructed Choi Aron to take all the credit for the victory. He explained that the kid had burned through his power in that final attack. As he said goodbye, she promised she understood what to do. She wished him well, hoping to meet again back at school. Back in the present, those memories faded as he plotted his next move. No matter what, he needed to get that inventory back. Those energy stones once he mastered the divine arts, since he failed to fully absorb them last time. Their absolute power. For now, though, he just wanted to lay low and rest. He eventually returned to the Trojan family province. Meanwhile, their leader was in the middle of a meeting with several executives at a table. He mentioned that thanks to the present media. At the selection test site, news articles had spread like wildfire across the region. Almost everyone had already read the updates, but the headlines were far from flattering. Some articles openly called the Trojan family a complete joke, while others claimed they had secret ties to the devotees. Naturally, the leader was incredibly stressed over this chaos, unable to believe a malicious traitor had infiltrated their ranks. To make matters worse, he revealed that the Hunter Association had just released an official declaration regarding the whole disaster. He noted that something similar happened to the Ventric family in the past, and since their connection was distant, they stayed quiet, but silence was no longer an option. The leader then asked about Cho Aron and brought up Cho Jin-gun's arrest. Relieved to hear that the young girl was safe and recovering in the family hospital, her wounds were quite severe, but thankfully, the bleeding had stopped and her vital organs suffered no permanent damage. Completely sparing her from a risky surgery, the leader sighed in deep relief. Then one of his subordinates pointed out some intriguing articles about Cho Aron. The media was actually praising her for defeating a dangerous devotee member. Despite being a mere student, but looking at Kim Joo-hyuk's report, the patriarch was still somewhat confused. The girl had technically fought her own kin. Yet the public was fully celebrating her actions. At that moment, another executive spoke up, saying this positive press was a huge relief since the selection exam had ended in complete disaster. Now, their next successor was officially confirmed. These glowing articles would easily help Cho Aron secure her new position. And the leader couldn't help but agree. He knew it was a perfect chance for the young girl to finally thrive, and yet something felt off. Her defeating Cho Jin-gun all by herself raised some serious questions. Let's look at the leader's memory of that fateful day he and his assistant had discovered. Cho Aron sitting right in front of her defeated brother. She claimed that he had attacked her with dark magic, forcing her to knock him unconscious. But the leader doubted Cho Aron, since a massive wave of magical energy had erupted. As the guards carefully lifted the injured girl, she offered a simple explanation. She calmly told him that Kim Joo-hyuk was the one who taught her how. Back in the present, the patriarch stared at the articles about Kim Joo-hyuk, wondering what deep secrets this mysterious man was hiding. Meanwhile, over at the prestigious Valhalla Academy, Kim Joo-hyuk had just stepped inside his classroom. As he walked to his desk, something unexpected instantly caught his eye. There was Cho Aron, sitting quietly and looking completely composed in her seat. He expected her to still be recovering in the hospital, but she looked perfectly fine. She turned her head, catching his gaze, and gave him a shy, happy little wave. A nearby student wondered if that sweet smile was for him, but Kim Joo-hyuk swiftly dragged him back to reality using two quick illusions. Shortly before this, the protagonist was quietly studying his notebook when he suddenly heard a very familiar notification sound chimes. It is Cho Aron texting to say she won't be unable to train for a while. That makes sense, considering how much blood she lost. Kim Joo-hyuk replies that it is fine since he has other things to handle. He will be busy solving his own issues. She replies with a barrage of stickers, making him feel pretty overwhelmed by the spam. Just then, Bars suddenly appears, claiming he has something to share, immediately sparking the interest of our hero. He reveals that the dark magic feels incredibly familiar. Kim Joo-hyuk questions him, About those past memories, but Bars cannot recall the specifics, he explains. He hasn't forgotten, but a strange block is sealing his mind. Kim Joo-hyuk guesses the cause is that annoying guy Bars mentioned before. And Bars agrees, he is not fully sure, but satisfying the second condition could theoretically shatter that block. Our hero then connects this clue to the center of the Great Forest, which he originally thought was just an evaluation ground, but it also hosts the final practical exam, where the worst performers are immediately expelled. Kim Joo-hyuk reaches the annoying conclusion that he will have to wait until the scheduled exam period, which is going to waste a lot of time. Our hero needs time to adapt to his martial arts anyway. He resolves to find the forest center, but the classroom door swings open. Their teacher walks in, demanding the students settle down and pay attention. He announces that there is some important news before the lesson starts. He asks if they know about the interschool competition next month, finding the class is already aware. Kim Joo-hyuk considers the event while Bars notes the instructor brought it up after their bi-monthly exams. The gray-haired teacher explains that the academy will select the highest-scoring students to represent them. Immediately after, he calls our protagonist to his office, leaving the young man quite confused. They soon leave the classroom behind and head to another corner of Valhalla. The instructor notes how often they cross paths here, and Kim Joo-hyuk retorts that the instructor is to blame. He agrees. He admits his fault, but says this concerns Kim Joo-hyuk entering the upcoming interschool tournament before the man even gets to the point. Kim Joo-hyuk flatly declines the invite. Still, the teacher pushes on, promising to break down the details of the event one more time. It gathers the three most elite hunter training academies on the planet, featuring Valhalla of Korea, White Lotus of China, and the elite heroes of the United States. Every school selects their best first-year students to represent them in trials ranging from direct combat to maze escapes. Because of this, Valhalla wants to field their absolute top performers. Yet Kim Joo-hyuk remains completely unimpressed and clearly uninterested. The instructor tries to list the massive benefits, but our hero says he has no interest in money or shallow rewards. He reaffirms his stance, though the teacher is not easily discouraged. He calmly brings up the Great Forest Center, which finally grabs his full attention. Since it is the final exam ground, the teacher explains that because the ultimate test is at Valhalla, they must venture deep inside center, basically letting them bypass the previous exam's winners. But if a student fails to complete it, they will have to try again during finals. Hearing this, Kim Joo-hyuk nods in understanding. He then declares his decision to enter the upcoming inter-school competition. Meanwhile, over at the massive Ventric estate in the United Kingdom, the family leader Adelia checks on the progress of their preparations. She is told everything is running smoothly, though it will take another month to finish. She simply tells them to keep up the hard work, then asks about Valhalla and the Rockdale Ventric people, learning that no issues have popped up regarding their movements. She immediately orders her assistant to report any suspicious activity right away. That's when he mentions some strange, unrelated news that immediately piqued her curiosity. Rumors claim some people in the market are building a giant structure out of paper money. Adelia is completely stunned by this weird news, realizing that Black Cat is likely responsible. You have to wonder what they are planning. Building with money is highly bizarre. Adelia quickly opens her holographic screen and finds that the Beat Mask is demanding a detailed report. She immediately summons Ms. Constellation to get some fast answers. Deep within the 7th territory of the market, heavy machinery is humming. Up on a high ledge, Black Cat silently oversees the entire operation. He would gladly follow any order from his constellation, but this task of stacking a building out of fragile paper money makes no sense. Suddenly, a figure steps forward, revealing it's meant to be a gift. Black Cat immediately questions why they are constructing a tower out of cold, hard cash. The two-faced ruler just repeats that it's a present, leaving the little black feline incredibly curious about who would receive such a grand gesture. A certain name crosses his mind, but he keeps it to himself, his ruler. Then asks if he has located the young boy who sold those rings. Black Cat admits he has not, since the seller left no clear description. The kid, still with the contract's contact information on file, the search is currently active, scanning through every single public registry. The constellation demands speed, making the nervous feline nod in agreement. Tension hangs thick in the air. Meanwhile, inside the bustling faculty room. Back at Valhalla, the gray-haired teacher is struggling to sort things out. Suddenly, Lee Sung-kyul enters, asking if the tournament team members have been selected. He nods yes, prompting Lee Sung-kyul to ask for the list. He soon notices that apart from Young Jin, every single selected student is from the gray-haired teacher's class. Sung-kyul is completely shocked. To see Kim Jae-hyuk among them, the teacher explains that the boy initially refused to join, but mentioning the Great Forest Center changed his mind. Lee Sung-kyul finds this incredibly strange, and honestly, who wouldn't be suspicious? Hesitate at the mention, and the teacher fully agrees with his assessment. However, it is highly unlikely the boy didn't know what that center was, even if he slept through class, since the details were explained thoroughly. Lee Sung-kyul then points out the room of constellations, highlighting. He kept wondering about Kim Joo-hyuk's real motives for enrolling in the academy. He then asked permission to gather all the elite students for training. The head professor agreed and finalized the schedule before they parted ways. They left on surprisingly friendly terms, ending their little conversation right there. Let's fast forward a few days to the small auditorium at Valhalla. Inside, we find the absolute unit Oh Si-hyuk alongside the powerful, fearless, an impressive Yu So Hyun, the deceptively strong little prodigy Choi Arin, plus Do Young Jin, who actually belonged to a completely different gray-haired professor's class, and our main man Kim Joo-hyuk. Suddenly, instructor Lee steps inside the hall where these genius students stood waiting, spotted the 5 selected prodigies and welcomed them, saying it was a pleasure to meet them before introducing himself as their combat instructor. He explains their presence and outlines the upcoming training program. To survive this upcoming training, they must conquer 3 brutal trials. First up is a direct student duel, just like their entrance exam. The second trial forces all 5 of them into a massive team battle against rival academies, completely testing their leaders' adaptability. They will all be clashing on the field simultaneously. According to instructor Lei, the final test is in the Great Forest. This instantly grabs Kim Joo-hyuk's attention, but with exams moved up early. Details are sparse since the instructor cannot share much info. He only warns them that the forest center is a labyrinth. The area is heavily wooded, guarded by a high-security gate. Meant to keep everyone out, all that the instructor adds is that each group will receive their instructions on the day. Even with very limited info, they all seem to understand. He quickly moves on to explain the team format. He covers the battlefield layout without going into too much detail. He expects them to know the drill from their dungeon raid. Meanwhile, Kim Joo-hyuk keeps reflecting deeply on that vague explanation. With that secure barrier blocking the path, sneaking in won't be easy. That wraps up the briefing and the protagonist's silent theories. The instructor then quickly transitions to detailing the training schedule. Before dismissing them, he asks if anyone has any questions. Only Kim Joo-hyuk raises his hand, asking a question once he is called on. He asks if there is any issue with him training alone. The instructor tells him that it is perfectly fine to train alone. He asks the class again, and this time only Choi Arin raises her hand, also expressing a strong desire to practice alone. Instructor Lee finds this incredibly strange, but he agrees to their requests. He looks around the class, asking if anyone else wants the same. Since nobody else speaks up, he wraps up the class for today. He tells them he will see them on the field. With a quiet nod, the students stand up and file out of the room. He expected to fully master his skills before this big event even started. Technique absorbing the mana to heal his body, all free moments go to training. That was his plan, but right then, a voice suddenly called out to him. It was Choi Rin, asking if joining the training session was really a good idea. Her question threw him off a bit. He assumed she wanted to train all by herself, especially since she already mentioned she could not push her body too hard right now. But Choi Rin had a hidden motive behind her sudden change of heart. A quick flashback reveals a conversation she had with her professor not too long ago. He read the news, wanting her explanation. The professor asked if she genuinely wanted to participate in the upcoming tournament. She only cared about one thing: would Kim Joo-hyuk be there too? Once the professor confirmed it, Choi Rin immediately agreed to join the event. It surprised the instructor, knowing she was still recovering from her injuries. She assured him she would be fine, easily winning over the gray-haired professor. Present day, Choi Rin realized she had very little time left to prepare. She needed to become the family head, but everything changed. Thanks to Kim Joo-hyuk, she actually has a completely different goal in mind. She wants them to grow stronger together, supporting his personal goals every step. He had generously helped her before, now it was her turn to give back. Kim Joo-hyuk is pretty confused by her sudden smiles and awkward pauses. He simply warns her not to overtrain, and she nods back firmly. Kim Joo-hyuk explains that their training will mostly focus on refined mana control. For physical work, they will stick to light walking, which she happily accepts. With the instructions sorted out, he says his goodbyes to Choi Rin. He promises to finish up his chores before helping her out some more. Meanwhile, things take a pretty dark turn as we suddenly find ourselves inside a cold, dark prison. Under a pale moon, a bloodied man with broken teeth screams out in agony. He desperately begs for mercy, offering bribe money just to escape with his life. But these merciless men show absolutely no pity, and one slowly unsheathes a massive, razor-sharp hunting knife. With a terrifying grin, he plunges the blade deep into the kid's chest. Blood pours out as he groans and collapses to his knees, utterly defeated. He falls unconscious. Lisa asks her partner Elle why he did not just finish him. Elle casually replies that ending the fun so quickly would be a total waste. Lisa gets excited. Another lucrative contract has just popped up on her screen. It is another lucrative contract. Elle asks if they have a new target to eliminate. She nods, showing him her phone. There is a clean picture of Kim Joo-hyuk. The student from Valhalla, a deadly contract has just been placed on his head. Meanwhile, their bloodied victim is still slumped over, the blade in his chest. Nandal casually strikes up a conversation while pulling the cold steel out of him. He asks Lisa why they even bothered taking a hit on some random, useless student. Lisa shrugs, guessing the client must have paid a massive fortune for the job. They have a month-long deadline, and the hit must happen during the school competition. Nandal asks why they do not just strike now and finish the job. She explains that school dorm security is incredibly tight, with high-tech magic barriers. It is impossible, but he points out that the competition will be worse. With all that security and spectators around, it will be a nightmare. Other schools would also be attending, which Lisa already knew thanks to Aaliyah. The third day task was set inside a giant maze at the forest center. The goal for the academy students was simply to navigate their way through this maze. Hearing this, Nandal wondered if any of the instructors would actually be there. Lisa explained that nobody would be watching, except for a drone and some entrance security guards. The teachers and advisors would only be monitoring everything from a safe distance. They had to hide once Aaliyah slipped in first, which Nandal found pretty boring. Lisa insisted the mission came first, and Nandal ultimately agreed. Fast forward a whole month, and it is finally day one of the academy tournament. All the students are completely hyped for the opening match, but Rockdell. Ventric watches everything in total silence. His mind drifts back to a recent memory. Not long ago, he picked up an urgent call from his powerful father. He confirmed that the massive payment for Eden Ventric had gone through successfully. His father was pleased. Then Rockdell revealed how he spent that fortune. He paid for a deadly contract, hiring the Il Shinjo group to eliminate Kim Joo-hyuk. His father was absolutely stunned, but Rockdell calmly explained the brilliant plan. There was zero evidence linking their family to this sudden assassination plot. The infamous assassin squad had already accepted the massive contract anyway. Eden Ventric knew all about them, a dangerous trio feared across the underworld. Together, those three formed an absolutely unstoppable force in combat. Because of the danger, his father warned him to keep a low profile, and Rockdell agreed. Back in the present, Rockdell knows that Ilshin already sent confirmation. They promised that Kim Joo-hyuk would be dealt with during the academy event. Since the target was practically dead, Rockdell did not even need to stay and watch. He signals his assistant Julia to leave, just as a dark figure appears. A man in black steps onto the stage, greeting the massive crowd. This was Shim Dakin, the powerful president of the student council. Before starting, he announces the elite representatives from each competing academy. He introduces China's White Lotus, then the legendary heroes from the United States. And finally, the top-tier prodigies representing South Korea's own Valhalla. This tournament will last for 3 days, starting with today's intense match. He announces that day one will feature brutal, one-on-one student duels. With the opening remarks finished, the competitors head back to their waiting rooms. The chief instructor is highly anticipating what this new generation can actually do. But his real focus is on a familiar face, the head American instructor. This is Jack Rover, and the two veterans clearly share a long history. Jack jokingly calls his old friend Mr. Third Place, bringing back old rivalries. He points out that Valhalla fell short last time, but things are different now. This year, the American heroes are completely guaranteed to take the top spot. That immense confidence stems from the ultimate contractor, an absolute legend. Seo realizes who he means, the unstoppable fighter known as Logan the Destroyer. To Seo's complete surprise, that legend's own son is attending the academy. He is representing the United States today, and Logan Jr. is an absolute genius. Just by looking at him, Seo realizes this boy is extremely competent. He cannot wait to see him fight, and Jack boasts about the boy's contract. Claiming the very same constellation as his father, even so, Jack heard rumors. Valhalla recruiting some insane prodigies this term, specifically that powerhouse Kim. Jack was actually pretty hyped to see these kids clash, but our instructor shrugged it off. He simply muttered that Jack would understand his doubt. Very soon, right on cue, the crowd gets exactly what they wanted. The opening match puts Valhalla right up against the heroes, these two young fighters. Step onto the battlefield, the president steps up and lays down some basic rules: no killing allowed. The high-tech safety barriers will absorb any lethal blows. Instead, every single impact converts straight into pure pain through electric pulses. This means they can unleash their full power without holding a single thing back. Once the countdown hits 0, it is game on. Naturally, our main character stays totally relaxed. 3, 2, 1, action. Instantly, Jae-hyuk lunges forward with a lightning-fast strike. Usually, nobody ever deflects his attacks, but this opponent actually did it. Who is this guy? Logan smirks and asks if Jae-hyuk really thinks that weak strike was actually strong. Jae-hyuk calmly replies that he still has a lot to learn. Logan laughs, calling him way more modest than he expected. Honestly, it almost looks like Logan is a major threat, but think again. Jae-hyuk asks if he can survive a real onslaught before spinning him around. He sends Logan airborne, then drives a brutal, direct punch right into his chest. Logan grunts, feeling the sheer weight of that hit, while our hero notes that this kid is surprisingly durable. Up in the stands, both instructors watch closely. Sangil admits that Logan is pretty impressive for tanking a hit from our main guy. Jack studied every single video of Jae-hyuk to prepare his students, but this power is terrifying. Still, they are not counting Logan out yet. He has not even unleashed his destructive magic yet, but now the aura explodes. Jae-hyuk is forced to jump back, sensing the sheer danger of this incoming strike. Logan definitely has raw power, but his actual combat skills are lacking. As a few hairs get clipped, Jae-hyuk jokes that Logan would make a decent barber. Realizing he cannot land a clean hit, Logan decides to switch up his tactics. He does not need to throw straightforward, destructive attacks anymore. Instead, he slams both hands down, sending his magical energy directly into the arena floor. Massive slabs of concrete shatter and rise to block his opponent's field of view. Hidden behind the floating rocks, Logan prepares to strike. But this sneaky plan is honestly just amateur hour to a real pro. Jae-hyuk effortlessly tracks his every move, slipping through the debris and even chucking a jagged stone straight at Logan's face. Using this opening, our hero mocks him. He tells Logan that hiding only makes him easier to spot, especially when his massive energy signature is glowing like a beacon. Why not just throw a normal punch aimed directly at his nose, with one final lightning-fast strike? The Korean team clinches the win. Sangil is not surprised at all. But Jack stands there completely speechless. The kid is an absolute monster. Soon the other matches wrap up, with every opponent getting absolutely crushed. With the rival schools cleared out, Valhalla must now fight each other in the finals. Making Jae-hyuk proud, Choi Arm emerges as his final opponent. She steps up. With Valhalla's victory already guaranteed, there is absolutely no reason for them to ever keep fighting. She should fight with everything she has, but only the winner gets the scholarship. Since she doesn't actually need the cash, she offers to forfeit if Jae-hyuk wants. But he refuses, telling Choi A-rin not to forfeit. He wants her to show off how much she has improved and give it her absolute best. Without hesitation, the girl readies her attack. Her thunderous sword crackles, channeling skills that were already pretty impressive before. Now her control is on a whole new level as these two monsters clash. Their exchange shocks the entire arena, leaving even the veteran instructors completely speechless. They are watching an elite battle, but ultimately the victory goes to Ju Huk. Inside his mind, the sentient sword bars calls him cruel, asking if he went too far. But Ju Huk insists he held back, making sure to avoid her abdomen entirely. She shifted her trajectory at the last second, and he adjusted to only strike her blade. Yet his power is so overwhelming, just hitting her weapon caused all this damage. Though his growth is monstrous, Choi Ae-rin still outshines all the other students. She easily surpasses her classmates as day one of the competition finally wraps up. That night, instructor Senko warmly congratulates the team on their first day victories. Thanks to the arena defense system, everyone escaped without sustaining any real physical injuries. Still, he advises them to rest up and stop by the infirmary just in case. He starts explaining tomorrow's strategic formation, but Ju Huk is lost in his own thoughts. He wonders if he actually needs to wait to head into the Great Forest. With his current level of strength, following these slow academy rules feels completely pointless. Once the meeting wraps up and Seo leaves, Ju Huk pulls the instructor aside. He asks if defeating everyone in record time tomorrow allows him to skip ahead. Specifically, he wants to take the third test on that very same day. The instructor doesn't even question the crazy request and promises to check the rulebook. After checking, the instructor actually finds a highly unusual loophole in the guidelines. If a student clears a test instantly, the next phase can start immediately, provided that the staff already has all the necessary exam setups fully prepared. Hearing this, Ju Huk promises to wrap his fight up in a flash. He demands that the instructor prepares everything for the final trial on the spot. The stunned instructor doesn't object, simply agreeing to set it all up for him. He tells the young prodigy that they will proceed exactly under those terms tomorrow. After parting ways, our incredibly impatient hero complains about having to follow rigid protocols. He mutters to his sword, jokingly asking if it wants to be finished off too. He is deeply anxious to clear the system's objectives and unlock some real answers. The next morning, the sun rises over perfect weather for day 2 of the tournament. The Academy president takes the stage, welcoming everyone back to this beautiful event. He announces that the highly anticipated group battle will take place inside the forest. Spectators will get to watch every single moment through high-tech flying drones. Though their squad is favored to win, one vital member is completely missing. Yu Yan looks around anxiously, asking if anyone knows where Ju Huk is. Right on cue, the latecomer finally shows up and quickly apologizes to his team. Even though he happens to be the absolute strongest student, rules are still rules. Their instructor is quick to scold him, reminding him they needed to be early. Showing up 30 minutes before the exam was mandatory, and he clearly ignored it. He forgot he just wasn't paying attention when Gak announced that. How he'd personally handle everything, leaving no reason to even come up with a battle strategy. Sure, they know he is strong, but this is a group fight. And straight up asks if he really thinks he can take on 10 enemies alone. None of the other guys want to step into this argument, only the girls have the guts to face him. Aram steps in, wanting to fight alongside Gak. A flat no, he tells everyone to stay put, even though Yu So Hyun doesn't understand his true motive. She tries her best to change his mind. Then as the countdown ticks down, 3, 2, 1, the White Lotus team prepares to reclaim their lost points, but right after starting the exam. The test begins, they are immediately located, no time to defend. Gak even admits they did pretty well by reacting so fast, just like that, White Lotus has been wiped out. Team leader Logan assumes Valhalla targeted White Lotus first, specifically to prevent them from joining forces to create a massive threat. That monster is both incredibly powerful and deceptively sharp. Suddenly, their team scout detects massive magic moving toward them at extreme speed. It is a single person. Knowing the absolute monster is coming, they immediately throw up a heavy magic barrier. Melissa starts casting her most powerful strengthening spell. Bella takes charge of the defense, pouring energy to reinforce the shield. With their guard fully raised, Logan prepares to strike. It is an airtight, purely defensive formation. Melissa still wonders why they are trying this hard against just one enemy. Logan says it is Gak. She must have seen how insanely different he is during the initial test. Bella chimes in, saying Melissa did not face him yesterday, so she has no clue how lethal his hits are. Melissa remains convinced no one can top Logan, but even Logan openly admits he stands no chance against him. They wait in absolute silence and their enemy's mana suddenly vanishes. Still, they hold their defensive formation a bit longer. The boys double down on their magic. During the wait, the monster appears above the trees. A cold chill runs down Logan's spine. Before he can even turn around, his entire vision is completely blocked. By a cold blade, Gak drops from above, taking out their main attacker. Bella never even gets a single chance to raise her shield. Melissa did not fight him yesterday, but she is determined to finish this. She just needs to hit him. Instead, she gets exactly what the others got yesterday, a devastating punch to the gut. The two boys from earlier had the clear advantage of attacking him from behind, but they lose in one strike. In 4 attacks, Gak demolishes the 5 opponents from the American Academy. Their entire team is eliminated. Gak cannot wait any longer to head out into the forest. But before that, where is this guy looking? Now, the fastest exam in history has just wrapped up. In the monitoring room, the president asks if the timers are actually working. Gak completed the entire exam alone. Just 23 minutes. Since it is correct, the president decides to wrap up the second day of testing early. However, senior instructor Sanyo points out that the official rules allow the third exam to begin today if the second round ends this fast. The president understands, quickly giving his official approval. People are actually whispering, could Gyak really be a demon who pulled off everything he claimed? Jack agreed with Senko to move the third test up, but they still needed a green light from the White Lotus instructor first. Jack figured that after seeing how the first 2 days went down, the final outcome was already set. Valhalla had unleashed a total monster this year, and Jack knew it. He completely got why Senko never doubted Gyak. Meanwhile, over in the restroom, the Valhalla team was chilling, barely even breaking a sweat, because they had not lifted a single finger. For that easy win, Yu Yan could not stop staring. This guy was a straight-up monster. Completely out of his mind, she originally planned to take charge in this exam, but that plan was shattered. Yesterday, she got absolutely wrecked by Choi in their fight. Now rumors are flying that Gyak is training her, but she feels like she is falling way too far behind. It is incredibly frustrating, making her wonder if swallowing her pride would get him to teach her, but that tense moment instantly shatters when the Academy intercom blares with an update: tomorrow's exam. Survival in the Labyrinth Forest is happening right now, before they head out. Gyak stops the group to deliver a sudden announcement to everyone. He is going solo straight to the heart of the woods, meaning they are completely on their own. If they get in over their heads, they can ping him for help. Naturally, Yu Yan is highly annoyed. Another lone wolf play. They already crushed the first 2 trials, so passing this round is a total breeze. But why does this guy insist on doing absolutely everything by himself? She wants to call him out, but holds back. Gyak then smirks, asking if the little bird has something to say. Why does he keep giving her stupid nicknames? But reacting like that just proves his point. Shortly after, the entire crowd gathers at the massive gates of the Great Forest. The Academy president steps up to declare that the final test is officially underway. Once more, the spectators will be watching every move through the arena's magic screens. Out there in the center lies a brutal labyrinth unlike anything else on Earth. A pitch-black forest where the rain never stops pouring, hiding lethal dangers around every corner. The rules for this survival exam are simple. Every student will be graded after spending 5 long hours surviving inside the heavy downpour. The cleaner and more untouched they look compared to their starting state, the better their score. Remember, team battles are strictly off-limits. With that, the hunt begins. But while the students prepare, those 2 absolute psychopaths are already lurking in the school's old warehouse. They were originally planning to strike on day 3, but plans changed fast. When they realized the exam got moved up, a mysterious woman slips in to deliver the news, prompting them to speed up their deadly little mission. With a flash, they warp out, and instantly the feed in the monitoring room goes completely dark. The panicked instructors have no clue what kind of massive glitch could take out every single camera in the forest at once. Did someone just forget to pay the internet bill? Call the provider and check the main gate. Knowing the kids are in serious danger out there, the staff decides to call off the test and head in, but when they arrive at the entrance, they find nothing but smoking ruins where the massive gate used to stand. Deep inside the woods, the students struggle through the pouring rain. Melissa notices that Bella is starting to flag, but she refuses to hold back the team. She was absolutely soaked in the rain, and Logan, being a reliable leader, simply could not ignore the signs. He ordered his team to build a quick shelter, and using his unique elemental power, he easily carves a cave into the earth. Suddenly, a bizarre anomaly manifests right in front of him. A dark purple orb. Instantly, three shadowy figures step out from inside it. A bald man with a menacing gaze growls that Jae-hyuk should just accept his fate and die quickly. Their leader, or whoever is in charge, points out that this is not their target. Their teleportation spell located the incorrect person. Logan overheard the bald man clear as day. They are here to kill Jae-hyuk. But who exactly are these criminals wielding forbidden black magic? The lead girl orders the bald man to hurry up and leave absolutely no witnesses, but they will have to face a genius from the Academy. This competition is no place for worms crawling around with black magic. Logan tries to strike the enemy in front of him, only to get stabbed right through the back. The bald assassin's bizarre power allows for dirty tricks like that. How incredibly cowardly. He actually did it, striking down someone as crucial as Logan. When did he even get behind him? The bald assassin smugly tells him to look back and see. That is when Logan realizes this ruthless monster has mastered cloning techniques. There is zero mercy in this guy. Logan takes a fatal strike and collapses. His body hits the ground heavily, making the two girls wonder if he is already dead. But no, he is just going to slowly bleed out in the rain. These killers are totally numb, but Bella has never seen someone so close to dying. The lead girl orders the bald man to hurry up and silence the remaining witnesses. They need to hunt down their target before anyone interferes. Meanwhile, as they slaughter the survivors, our main character is sprinting through the dense forest. The game system instructed him to head deep into the woods, but he seriously doubts there is anything of actual value here besides endless trees. But along his path, he suddenly senses the presence of the exchange students. The blonde girl is still standing, looking like she might be the absolute last survivor of her team. The bald killer had slaughtered everyone else, and he immediately locks eyes on the new witness who just arrived. To his absolute delight, his actual prey has walked right into his hands. Talk about a lucky day. Melissa spots Jae-hyuk, realizing these killers are after him, and her team was just caught in the crossfire. The sadistic assassins rejoice as their actual target walks straight to them. But even knowing he is the prime target, Jae-hyuk remains completely unfazed, maintaining a cold, sharp glare. Seeing these innocent students on the cold ground is something he cannot ignore. He tells the blonde girl to tend to her fallen classmates and stop their bleeding immediately. If she acts fast, they might survive. Jae-hyuk realizes the wounds were intentionally made to drip blood slowly. These killers are total savages. Before the clash begins, Jae-hyuk demands answers. What exactly is their ultimate goal behind this brutal attack? The bald man laughs, mocking the spoiled brat for thinking he can demand answers here. The gate is shattered. The surveillance drones are all trashed. No teacher is coming to save them. The assassin boasts that it will take at least an hour for help to breach the blocked entrance. It is a classic scare tactic, but Jae-hyuk is busy calculating his next move. The forest is massive and the rain is relentless. What if he loses his target after dealing with these pests? How would this bald thug react to a kid casually saying he will wrap this up quickly and move on? Enraged, the bald assassin lunges in from two sides to crush his prey. It should be absolutely impossible for anyone to dodge both incoming strikes, yet the impossible happens. The blades slam into empty dirt. Where is the kid? Jae-hyuk suddenly calls out from behind, warning them that they are in deep. He is in deep trouble. Jae-hyuk strikes so hard that the bald man flies through the air towards a tree. His partners do not even have time to process what is happening before they are struck from behind, instantly losing consciousness and collapsing like heavy, limp sacks of potatoes right next to their boss. Jae-hyuk immediately commands the blonde girl to use her recovery spells on her injured classmate. If she cannot do it alone,